Right, guys, welcome back. This is the Above Average FPL podcast. My name's Adam. As always, I'm joined by Baker. Evening, mate. How you doing?
Very good, mate. Very good. Good to get something in during international break. It's we need it. We need something. We've got something to talk about, and we like talking about bonus. So excited.
That's why we're here. And we're joined by our good friend Pras. How are you finding international break, Pras?
Bored out of my mind. I mean, I was telling you guys, it's one of those feelings where you start the weekend and you go, "Oh, this is nice. I can spend time with my kids. I can actually look at stuff. I can read a book." But by Saturday noon or 3 p.m., definitely you're like, "What the hell is this?" I'm bored. I'm getting no dopamine rush at all, and of course the disappointments. But all of that aside, it's nice to be chatting with you guys again. So thanks for having me.
It's
Pleasure,
been a little
mate.
while.
It has been. I think the last time Pras came on was when you were off, mate. I think you came to help me out, and so yeah, it's great to chat again, mate. And this is a good pod for us. We enjoy this podcast. It is we're kind of known for. Well, I'm now known for My Team, My Emotion. We've got Fireball, but originally we had the BPS pod, and so this is now. We thought so. This is funny because we were speaking about this before, and you were like, "Actually, we haven't done many of these." But this
Not
is
as many as I think we have. I feel like we do this every few months, but actually, is this the fifth one?
This is version 5. Yeah, we've been streaming like 2.5 years, so it's like you get like 2 a season basically from us. And obviously we did it pre-season. So just for anybody who's listening back on audio, my recommendation would be get yourself over to YouTube and watch this one. There's a lot of data, a lot of information on the screen for you to read, to digest, to take in. Which will all be timestamped and everything like that. So if you're listening on Spotify, I'd really recommend getting over to YouTube. We'll try as best as we can to make it sort of cross between the two. But again, recommend coming over to YouTube to watch it.
Yep.
We've got plenty to go through. So we're going to go through basically what the BPS is because, there will be new people that are watching this video. So I'm just explaining what the bonus point system is, how it works, etc. The good and bad and the ugly. Some of the changes from last season. So we'll be looking at a couple of fixtures to see what kind of impacts it's really kind of had. Some winners and losers, and then look across the positions and a few key players that we're looking at. And then we get into the beast of it, where we go club by club. We look at everything from each club, look at who's smashing baseline particularly from a defensive point of view, but also, very important to see for the attacking players. Looking who's sort of winning those battles within their teams. We'll work our way, as I say, club through club by club, and then we will get to what looks like a decent bonus-inspired Gameweek 12 wildcard, which, spoiler alert, some people might have already seen on X and on Blue Sky and on wherever else I posted it. So, yeah, hello to everyone in the YouTube chat. Just so you're aware, it's going to be a little bit less interactive than normal. So, feel free to chat amongst yourselves. But this is a big one for us. It's a long pod. We need to make sure that we're focused on the content. So
Look at the game face. I mean,
Okay,
we're doing this.
we're on.
And-
we're in.
Yeah, it's big for Adam as well. Like he has to do all the work. Me and Pras come along to talk about it, but it's a lot of work on YouTube for a lot of visuals. So off you go, sir.
Cool. This is the bit that doesn't require any analysis, so I can read all this. What is the BPS? So it's very simple. We need to understand what the BPS is. So the bonus point system, or the BPS, utilizes a range of statistics to create a BPS score for every player. I'm glad they actually defined it as a BPS score now. They used to just call it 3 BPS rather than BPS score. So, and then the 3 best performing players in each match will be awarded bonus points: 3 to the highest scoring player, 2 to the second best, and 1 to the third. We all know that kind of stuff, so it's pretty straightforward. But not many people know exactly what makes it up. So you've got decisive actions within the game, and then you've got the all-around kind of play as well. So your contributions to the game as a whole. So in terms of decisive actions, you have mainly goals, assists, clean sheets, and a penalty save. And you'll get different points whether you're a goalkeeper or a defender. So you get 12 points for your BPS score if you score as a defender or keeper, 18 if you're a mid, and 24 if you're a forward. And that's just because of how each player interacts with the game. So, forwards, generally you don't see them get many touches. You can take Erling Haaland as a great example. He has about 15 touches a game. The likelihood of him getting any other scores, any other points is going to be pretty low. So goals are his currency. That's where he gets most of his BPS score from. Midfielders a little bit less. Goalkeepers and defenders obviously get clean sheets as their own thing, so they only get 12 for a goal scored. 9 for an assist across everyone, and as I say, 9 for a penalty save. They're the big ones. They're the big chunky things that impact people's bonuses. You know, they're the stuff that we want to see in game, right? They're the big things that we look for. We look at XA and look at XG, expected clean sheets. This is what we look at. Anything to say on this, boys?
All good.
All good. And then we move on to the good stuff. So the good stuff around the game, and there's a couple of here that are highlighted in yellow. These are the new things for this season. So, you know, just playing minutes gets you points. You know, up to 60 minutes gets you 3 points. More than that gets you 6. You've got pass completion tiers, basically over 70% plus 2, over 80% plus 4, over 90% plus 6. And you have to have a minimum attempted passes of 30. I'm not going to go through all of them because there's a lot here. It's just a big list, right? So you can have a look, but a few of the key ones there. Big chances created get plus 3. If you score the game-winning goal, so for example, I've put if you score the second goal in a 4-1 win, then you get an extra 3 points onto your BPS score. Recoveries are in there, you get 1. Fouls 1. Shots on target, you get a couple. You know, there's lots of things really that contribute. Big players, you know, like Cole Palmer, for example, is a perfect example of someone that's going to get involved in a lot of these, apart from maybe saves. But then we move on.
So all these basically form what is the baseline BPS, correct? So
Baseline BPS.
Correct.
So the good stuff is the baseline.
Yes, and the bad stuff. And most of the bad stuff is also baseline. But yes, this is all baseline BPS. The bad stuff. So unfortunately, normally we put Bednarek on this image, but there is a new Bednarek, unfortunately for Harry Clark. So conceding a goal at -4. There are some big ones here though. Yellow cards -3, red card -9. They're pretty big. If you concede a penalty, it's -3. Big chance missed. You know, you can talk about DCL all you like on this one. -3. Darwin Núñez. They're just eating these ones up. Missing penalties -6. And then you've got a few defensive ones that are a bit iffy, which is like error leading to goal. You actually get -1 for an error leading to a shot as well, which is not included on here. But yeah, that's included. Obviously, if you score an own goal, that's -6. And then for strikers, -1 for caught offside and -1 for shots off target. There's a few bad things in here, right? So all of these things, when you see people jump, I mean, another great example of this is Erling Haaland just a couple of weeks ago, right? When he had 90th minute yellow card for tussling with was it Van Heck or someone like that?
Yeah.
And so yeah, he gets -3 on his baseline. That chucks him all the way down from second in a bonus down out the bonus, and it's a big swing for a lot of people.
It's like these things where once you know them, it irritates you even more. Like you have your striker who's got a chance 1-on-1 on goal, misses the target. So not only did he not get the goal, he got minus points for missing a big chance, minus points for shot of target, as opposed to all the other things plus positive BPS for shot on target and obviously for scoring.
Yeah, one of the big things with this is actually the combinations that happen in one incident. So a big chance missed, but also being off target is -4. A big chance missed, but on target is actually only -1 because you get your -3, but you get +2 for it being on target.
Right.
So,
but if you miss a penalty, it's -10. So it's -6 for the missed penalty, -3 for the big chance missed, and -1 for the shot off target.
But if the penalty gets saved, at least you get your 2 points back.
It's mad. It's mad how they add all these up. And then you go look on the other side, the flip side, on the good side, and you think that, you know, a shot on target for Erling Haaland in a 1-0 win, for example, is 24 for the goal. It's 2 for the shot on target and 3 for the game-winning goal.
Yeah.
And it's like instant. It's so big.
Instant.
They're so big when they're combined, and they're sort of cumulative things.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that we really need to look at.
Early on, you know, to address the thumbnail says that they've broken the BPS. When they make changes, it's very rare they make changes for it. But we all three of us play games that involve what they call balancing updates. So in the gaming world, what you'll see quite often is there's 2 reasons why they make changes. And the sort of changes you'll see in like games are things like health points or power or defense or those type of stuff. And it's either to make more money because there'll be certain, for example, characters that are underused, and they're like, oh, if we change that and make that one better, then people will spend money on that. So they do it for that kind of reason. Or it's because normally like something's either too crap or too good, and therefore they're trying to balance things out. With this one, the bit that I find insane is we've given you 2 extra for shot on target, but we didn't also reduce the goals bit. So the decisive action on goals, for example, it didn't change, but you've added 2 shots on target. So the bit that I don't think a lot of people get or realize is that when someone scores, it's now always worth 2 points more on the bonus than it ever was. So a goal for a striker is actually 26. A goal for a midfielder is 20. A goal for a defender is 14. And what you need is some thresholds that enable you to get to a certain level. So if you look at what you've just said there, into Adam, you just said around Haaland in a 1-0, well, he gets 24 for his goal, he gets 2 for his shot on target, and he gets 3 for the winning goal. So he then gets 29 off of that total action. And you then say, right, we have a defender with 12. So they need to get 17 more from each of these places to try and catch him.
You're not even taking into account the fact that he's probably played 90 minutes, so got 6 points.
Exactly. And then you add in that he gets a minute. So the only way he then gets down a bit is if he starts missing a load of stuff. They've made it, they've seriously bumped people that score goals. Seriously bumped people that score goals, because even that bit that they used to have, the Darwins, for example, we used to say, well, he'll never get top bonus because he'll always miss big chances. As long as he's hitting the target when he's missing his big chances, it's actually not that bad. -1 every time is nowhere near what it used to be. They've been incredibly lenient to attackers here. And then in the flip side, defenders have got done.
Yeah.
-4 for conceding a goal.
That's huge. Flecken owners know that's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, then we can come to we'll get to Brentford in particular. I think -4 for the first goal was harsh. I think -4 for the second goal. I think that's where I feel like a balancing needs to happen. Like a balance. It feels like it might work a bit better, because if you concede a couple of goals, that's pretty bad. I mean, you already do lose the point in game, right? You actually lose the point for conceding 2 goals in game as well. But it's almost like they're punishing you before that happens. Immediately.
They are. And I think there were certain things. So think about this balancing act of things to do. A lot of people moaned last season about Pedro Porro's 2 points in a 4-2 loss. We all remember they lost to Brighton 4-2, and he still got 2 bonus. And that couldn't happen now. Like, just getting an assist when an opposing team scores 4, it's never going to offset.
James Justin.
James
Justin literally scored twice in a 4-2 loss and got no bonus.
Got no bonus.
Wow.
This season. It is a change, and we need to make sure is in our brains we don't necessarily think about it the same way as we thought about it before. Because it's different. It's different.
So which fixture do we want to look at first? Because we've got a couple of fixtures as an example. So if we look like what difference has it made? So basically what we're doing here is we're looking at Liverpool versus Arsenal. That was 2-2, and goals were scored by Saka, Marino, Salah and Virgil. Assists from Rice, White, Darwin and Diaz. Salah picked up 3 bonus. Saka picked up 2. Marino picked up 1. Based on last year's metrics, Salah would have still picked up 3 bonus, but Virgil and White would have picked up 2 each. But they were completely out of the picture because their baselines were dropped by basically 8, right?
They would have. I mean, the thing on this one to really note is that it's not just where the bonus goes, it's where it's likely to go. Because we've got 6 players here. The top one in the new system is on 33, and the bottom one is on 19. It's really clear where the bonus is going to go. It's going to go to those people that scored the goals that are not defenders. But in the old version, yes, Salah still gets it, but there's only 3 BPS between top and bottom there. It's all in the mix. So where we used to last season, we'd be like, refresh, refresh, refresh. What's going on? What's going on? It's almost, you don't even need to anymore. You know where it's going. As soon as Mo scored that goal, and it was the last goal of the game, wasn't it? It was like, well, he's going top bonus. And in he walks.
It's
It's
a perfect example. This one where Saka for 4+, Salah 5+, Virgil's 5-, and White 8-. It's huge.
yeah. Yeah, White 8- because he didn't get fouled and he didn't have any shots. Virgil also lose 5. No, he didn't lose his Virgin.
Clip that.
Because actually, although he lost the 8 for the goals conceded, he gained 2 for a shot on target, and he was fouled once. So it's not as bad. Rice, nothing. Marino goes up for his shot on target. But yeah, Saka and Salah, because not only did they have the shots, but they also got fouled, and they don't get any of the losses. It consolidates these players that were pretty good on bonus. It consolidates them to make them even better. It's a problem.
And then we look at again Liverpool. We like looking at Liverpool here, but Liverpool versus Brighton. Liverpool win 2-1. So in this example, goals come from Gakpo, Salah, and Kadioglu, and assists from Jones, Virgil, and Welbeck. Virgil van Dijk getting some assists this season, isn't there?
Yeah,
he picked a couple of good games there. So obviously,
he did a sideways pass out, and then Gakpo hit a cross which nobody touched, and it went in.
Oh, that's somehow it happens. You just ask Jan Vertonghen about that assist for Son.
Yeah.
So yeah, Gakpo gets top bonus here. Salah second, Salah with 2, and Tsimikas with 1. Out the bonus, Trent, Ayari, and Kadioglu. And in the old system, that would have been Gakpo with 3, Tsimikas with 2, and Trent with 1. And Salah would have been completely out of the bonus in this instance.
Not even close to the bonus.
No.
Salah went from 23 on the old system to 8. He got 4 shots on target, and he was fouled 3 times. In fact, I think, 2 shots on target and fouled 4 times. He was, sorry.
Yeah, which is mad. So it's even
like the defenders are suddenly just not close to him.
Yeah.
Not close to them. It's if you can get the good attackers, and what we're starting to see is good attackers actually on teams that concede occasionally are even better, because it puts that differentiator between them. It makes them you want to get attackers on teams that don't always keep cleans.
We've got a few of those. We're picking at the moment.
I mean, what's interesting is actually, this is a great chart to discuss. That is, we were talking about, Trent versus a 7 million midfielder, or do you want to have a 6.5 million defender versus a 4.5 million defender? I think these are interesting topics that we're just starting to see, because defenders are getting hammered. There's this table that Adam will talk about in a second, but question is, we still need to have 3 defenders. So should we spend money in defense or not, is the question. Should we have Trent there because he will outscore other defenders, or should we not have Trent because 7 million midfielders will outscore Trent, given what we know now?
Yeah, it's a big question about maybe focusing. I don't know whether we need to focus on the cheaper defenders within those good defenses. And people are already talking, obviously, like Konate. The move for Konate is already sort of taken place. People talking about Timber now that White's out. There's those conversations appear to be happening already. But in this table for basically winners and losers, on the left-hand side, you're looking at the amount of bonus, the goals, the assists, and the clean sheets of each position this season so far. This is based on players that have started, so there's a bit of a skew on some players basically that came on as a sub haven't been included in these numbers. But what it basically saying is that defenders have been absolutely decimated for bonus. They've received around 90 bonus points less at this point this season versus last season.
Yep.
Now, there are things to say that they are, the goals are the same year on year, 35 goals from defenders, but they're down 18 assists. There's definitely less creativity coming from the defenders. I don't know whether
Definitely
that's
less creativity.
game style that we're seeing at the moment, and there are less clean sheets. So it says 17, but if we consider that across most defenses it's 3 or 4, sometimes 5, then it's around about 4 clean sheets, and that's obviously mirrored in the keepers. It's pretty similar. So it's about 3 to 4 clean sheets less across the 11 game weeks.
Yeah, and an extra 4 clean sheets, for example, as I said, because it's 4 times 4 to get you 17. Those 4 games. So the most bonus you could have got there 4 out of those is 6, really. So the most, even if you had the same number of clean sheets, it's only going to clear about potentially claw back, say 20 bonus, maybe. But even then, you don't know if they would or not. So it would still be, even if the cleans were like level where they were last season, you're still looking like 70 points less on bonus already. It is an interesting conversation about, do you just rip all the money out? Because then you go, well, who's got the most points from defenders this season? And in the top 9, 4 of them are Liverpool defenders. One of them's Vardiol. One of them's Gabriel. And then the others are 2 of the Forest guys, Murillo and Aina, and Anthony Robinson. So, yes, we couldn't suggest we take all the money out of it, but it's almost like you kind of need then. There's a real sea of defenders currently between like 35 points and 25 points this season, which isn't a lot, is it? That's like 2.5 to 3 points a game average.
Yeah, pretty rubbish.
But it's whether you want to spend 6 million to get one. The best is averaging 5 points per game week at the moment. Virgil van Dijk's averaging 5 points per game week at the moment.
With great fixtures.
And has had the best fixture run of anybody could ever have had for the last 10, 11 games. It's a really difficult conversation. It's really difficult. And I guess we need to have a look at it. Well, if you do release that money, where do you move it to?
So just to add it for people that are listening, so midfielders have picked up around 23 additional bonus points despite having 16 less goals, 5 more assists. And that just kind of feels like that is literally coming from defenders, because most of their stuff is going to come from goals. If you consider that it's 18 points for a goal and 9 for an assist, right? There's a lot of decisive BPS coming out of midfielders, and yet they're still getting more bonus. And it's because the defenders are just getting less because they're getting pummeled. Yeah. But obviously the big ones are the strikers. They're up by 7 goals, so 110 goals this season so far from strikers. They're up 57 bonus points. And if anybody's wondering why the bonus on the right hand side doesn't add up to 0, it's because actually so far there's been less bonus points handed out, because you can get more than 6 in a game in theory.
You can. I mean, yeah, just in general, like, if you think about it, we just talked about it. It benefits people that shoot. So in midfielders is a really wide range of people, isn't it? From the kind of number 6s that well, it's not going to benefit them much. It's not going to benefit the just pure creators that aren't necessarily taking any shots. You've got to do shots to get that bonus, or get fouled, because we do have a lot of midfielders that get fouled a lot. So it's a good help. But with strikers, it's just straightforward. When you used to miss a bigger chance, if it's now on target, it's not that bad. Just hit the target. It should be something we look at more often with it. When they miss, do they hit the target? If they do, it's not a big worry. If they hit the target regularly and they score, gold.
Yeah, I think that's, I guess, true of even FPL points, right? I mean, if you're not missing but being saved, then goals are more imminent than if you're just missing generally.
Yeah.
But I think on defenders, I think one important point is, so I'm using your example of 5 points, right? 5 points per game versus 3.5, right? So that over 38 game weeks is 50, 60 points. So that's actually a lot.
Yeah, so, it's exactly what you think is the gap's widening between good defender and bad defender.
So there's a comment from FPL Bandit that 3-4-3 is the way. I think that's the one takeaway. Don't play 4 at the back. Like, no matter what fixtures you have, don't play. You'll find a midfielder or a forward that can outscore that defender, no matter who that is. Because you're talking, if you're playing for at the back, you have to compare your weakest defender to your weakest midfielder or weakest forward. So you should hopefully be able to cover. But I think the discussion on expensive defender versus cheap defender,
Yeah.
my takeaway is still spend the money, because FPL makes you play 3 defenders. Don't play 3 defenders who'll give you 3.5 points a game, when just for $1.5 million or 2 million, you can get somebody who can give you 5 points a game at 190 points. And hopefully bonus, because to get the bonus, you'll need action, which is the very good stuff that Adam had at the beginning of the slide, which was you need clean sheets, assists, goals.
Yeah.
And that's difficult to find if it's a cheap defender.
Yep. Do we want to go
Right now.
position by position, or do we want to look at certain players?
You choose.
Me
You're the host, mate. You take us on
Fair
there.
enough.
We'll talk about it.
So yeah, just so we'll quickly run through these again, conscious of time. So looking at the top keepers at the moment, it shouldn't come as a surprise. So this is basically top. They're all sorted by bonus points per game, and only people that have played more than half the games and have more than half a bonus point have been included. So the keepers is a pretty small pool. So you've got Becker, Raya, Sells, Pickford, Sanchez, Nana in here. And, you know, Alisson's baseline is insane, and it's actually pretty good when you compare him to the rest of the Liverpool defence as well.
What is he doing to get it?
He's always been good at it. He
Just
does
passing?
get his
Pass
pass
completion?
numbers in. He gets his pass numbers in. He takes a lot of recoveries. Yeah. So he claims he's so good at it's just positional stuff. He's so good at claiming crosses. He's so good at everything.
I'm looking at Raya, like I need to move out Edison, and I'm thinking, why not Alisson? Like if he's fit. Like why do
Yeah.
we need to go to Raya? But that's for a different discussion.
Yeah. So
that's a team by team discussion to look at who stand out.
it is. With Raya here and Sanchez picking up most of the saves as well, that's obviously contributing quite highly for them. But yeah, I mean, Alisson's baseline is obviously much higher because when he plays, like Liverpool just don't concede goals. It's basically it looks like in 6 starts he conceded 2 goals essentially. So
yeah, and his baseline is impacted by the lack of goals conceded. And again, you do have to. The only thing with Alisson is going forward is, will they keep as many cleans in the next 11 games as what they've kept in the previous 11 games, because the fixtures aren't as easy in the next 11 games.
True.
Yeah. But there's some interesting stuff. I mean, you talked about like the passing tiers. Interestingly, like the only keeper that's actually hits that top passing tier is actually Vicario, which is mad. Yeah, on average.
He doesn't pass. He doesn't technically pass, does he? Because he just lays it 6 yards left, 6 yards right.
Every goal kick and all this sort of every free kick is a 5-yard pass. Yeah, it's if that.
Yeah.
And there's only like 5 keepers up there for like tier 2 as well on average that are picking it up. So Verbruggen, Leno's in there, Edison and Alisson are the only other 4 keepers. So there's only 5 that are tier 2 and up from a baseline perspective, which is crazy. But I guess it's a shame at the moment he's injured, Alisson. So.
I mean, old school keepers must have been 50% because you just lob the ball outfield and half
Pickford
of them
still
are
is.
Yeah.
And then looking at defenders, so Ola Aina has the most bonus points per start so far, having started every game, which is nuts. I don't think anyone would have put money on a Forest defender topping that for defenders. Baseline's pretty good as well because they've been really good at the back. Gvardiol is just a beast for everything. Like his baseline is so high, given that they're conceding 1.2 goals a game when he plays. So he's conceded 12 goals in 10 games that he started, which is nuts.
Look at his shots on target compared to everybody else.
It is just absolutely insane.
0.7 shots on target per game for a centre back. Well, left back, isn't he? Effectively, sorry, but it feels that way as well when you don't own him.
Yeah. And Trent's here because he got an assist and he got some bonus early on in the game against Ipswich, I think it was, as well. His baseline is okay when you compare him to Liverpool other defenders, but it's only okay. It's Actually, if you were to look,
it's never been worse.
it's never been worse.
So
we can
Trent's
get there.
normal for those that historically been in there is like 17, 18 in previous seasons. So even with them conceding bugger all, it's still the system that they run in and stuff has dropped it huge numbers.
I mean,
Easy, interesting.
0.6 per game goals conceded would be about what, 2.4 off his baseline. So he's running at a baseline of about 14.5.
I mean, if they'd had that many cleans in previous seasons, he would be in
Probably be a
100%
300 point player. Been absurd.
Dallo, your boy, Dina. Adam mentioned him recently. I've seen that a lot of people are starting to look at Dina. I'm not looking at Dina.
He scored a goal tonight.
Scored a goal tonight.
We all have too many priors. No matter how objectively we play the game, there's other
so many
things.
priors, so I'll have Rico Lewis and Mikalenko instead.
Yeah, that's
what can go wrong.
I've been trying to talk you off Mikalenko for about 2 years.
He's doing better than Rico, mate.
It's fair. Midfielders, shouldn't surprise you that Salah, Palmer topping this in terms of bonus points accumulated so far per game, per start. Interestingly, Salah and Palmer both have the highest expected goal involvement from their 11 games as well. Only others above 30% are Bumo, Saka, Maddison, McNeil, and Bruno.
So nobody's ever done 1.5 bonus points per game. Nobody's ever done it. Haaland and Kane both just top the 50 mark, which you think over 38 games, you might be, but nobody's done over 1.5 bonus points per game. And Mo Salah's currently on 1.9.
Incredible. I mean, even his XGI share is huge.
Huge. Expected goal involvement, 42%.
Yeah,
but it just a huge beneficiary. 1.9 shots on target per game. That's like an extra 4 on the baseline. His baseline, for reference, we were looking at here, his baseline last year's season was 6. So when you're looking at these type of guys, Mo Salah, like the baseline last season was 6. It's currently 14.4.
He's just getting shots on target. He's getting fouled.
It's like they're giving him an extra assist every game.
He's, I think, a bit smarter as well with age, right? He doesn't. You remember 2 seasons ago, he used to dribble a lot, lose possession, He was never in bonus if he wasn't scoring, which has changed a lot. I think he gets an assist, he gets 2 bronze. Like, this is where we are now with him, the way he plays.
I thought I watched the Athletic Pod, our good old friend John McKenzie and Alex and Joe Devine did that today, and they talked a lot about like how what they're doing with Mo is not only they're using him in a really good way, but they were talking about the dribbles, and they were saying because of the way that they move the ball around, when he dribbles, it's almost a one-on-one dribble, and he's still really good on a one-on-one dribble. Whereas opposed to like in previous seasons, it would be there's 3 people in front of me. I'm going to try and dribble by the first one, but then I'm going to lose it to the next person, and it's all going to go out the way. When it's one-on-one, he's clever enough to shift left or right and get around them. Push the ball past, do all the things you can do, because it's just they're isolating. They're creating isolations by the way they build up. So when Mo does go against them, it's so much easier for him to beat his man. So yes, his dribbles are improved, and that's going up. Fouls won again because he's isolating people. He's one-on-one. Guess what? He gets fouled all the time. It's nuts.
Yeah, I think another interesting element as we compare these across teams, but also and we will come to the team by team, but just to sort of tease it up, like Salah is not competing against a forward in his team. Like, okay, Gakpo plays, but he doesn't play the whole game. He doesn't start every game. Darwin, same. Whereas compare that to a Bumo, now that Wissa has started, is different. Like Wissa will take some bonus off him, or compare that to a Son, even though his underlying is good. Now Solanke will take some. So it's just different dynamics within each team. Bruno, there is no forward that does, Haaland is there, but he takes no shots on goal. He's never going to compete with Bruno. It's a 2-2 game. Haaland scores, Bruno scores. Bruno will outscore him in bonus any day. 100%. So there's a little bit of team nuance as well, which we'll get into.
And that can change, can't it? So like Bumo, for example, is 1.1 bonus per game at the moment. But will that trend downwards because now Wissa's back?
Feels like a good segue to look at Wissa now, because he's up there, 41% of expected goal involvement. He has 1.6 bonus points per game. It looks like all the bonus is going to, or we know, all the bonus is going to Wissa and to Bumo, like 2.7 between them. It's like it's just all going to them. And this is why Flecken doesn't have any, basically, because it's all theirs. They're enjoying it.
He concedes every game,
and because they concede every game.
Every game. Yeah. So, looking at this, so in terms of there's real standouts here in terms of obviously Cunha. I mean, we've mentioned Cunha's baseline a number of times already. 13.9 is streets above pretty much everyone else on this table, apart from Ndiaye. But then Ndiaye plays for Everton, so it's not that big a deal. I mean, Cunha plays for Wolves, I guess, but his expected goal involvement is still up there. It's still fantastic. Despite really, not scoring that many, doesn't get many big chances because of where he plays on the pitch. Doesn't have the shots on target that the players around him in this table has. So like Wissa and Wood at 1.3, Haaland obviously 2.9, which is just absurd. Welbeck 1.1, Isak 1.2 shots on target per game. Raul and Nicholas Jackson 1.4 shots per game on target. All good stuff. And they're all getting big chances as well. All of them are above one, basically, apart from Welbeck and Cunha in that top half. I find it quite interesting that Watkins is getting 1.4 big chances per game when he starts. And obviously this is 11 starts, but it's not 11 90s, is it? As well.
It's
so he's getting
insane.
it in. He's still getting big chances. It feels like old Ollie.
When you look at Villa, we'll get to them. We can talk about his shooting, but it's mad on Watkins. What we are actually seeing is, so everyone, I think we're all talking about the lack of minutes on Watkins, but when you start looking at it, you're like, right, so Watkins has had 26 shots this season. 15 of his 26 shots were big chances. The only thing that's not helping him, old Ollie Watkins, only 13 of those 26 have been on target. So actually, if he's missing big chances and they're not on target, which, like the Arsenal game, for example, was well, actually, no, they were both on target when they were saving both. But he had those two big chances. They weren't as bad for the bonus, but he obviously didn't score. But he should be much, much higher with those level of big chances than where we've seen him. But he is starting to miss more on them. I think he just in general, look at this, loads of nines, doing really well. These numbers, again, just putting up, nobody's done 1.5 in a season. And Wissa, Wood, Cunha, Haaland, Welbeck, 1.2s to 1.6s. This is monstrous. As long as you have a number 9 that scores occasionally, you can't do too far wrong. So as long as you don't put Dominic Calvert-Lewin in your team as your number 9, and that's what I think, that's been some of that stuff for those that have owned DCL, like myself, it's actually been really double painful, because not only, it's not like, oh, he turns up with 2 points or sometimes 1. It's that the other one doesn't just get 6, they get 9, they get 8, is every time. They're never just getting 6. Like all these guys are they're getting, as we see, between 1 and 1.5 bonus. Even the lower ones, 0.7. So like when people are returning, they're getting 7, 8 points.
I think also just to caveat, just to put into here, obviously João Pedro's only started 3 games. He's only played 4 games and he's picked up 10 bonus points in that time. So, whether you look at his appearances, 2.7 per appearance or 1.7 per start, he's going to be up there. He's involved in this conversation, just didn't obviously meet the criteria for this table.
Yeah.
I mean, he'd be a hybrid anyway. Like this table, if you look at baseline, it tells you why forwards need 24 BPS for a goal. Like they don't do anything else. Like
they don't do anything else.
Apart from the 2 reverse out of positions, which you can call Cunha and Ndiaye to an extent, everybody is like sub 8 baseline BPS. And I think João Pedro is also in that hybrid. I think he does a lot of other stuff as well. So these guys will just get 1 action and get bonus. These guys specifically. And then forwards will score goals and get their bonus points because they don't get a lot of negative actions unless they miss a lot.
And even Haaland in it, is we've talked a lot about Salah being great, but with Haaland, he's normally been running on a baseline of like 1 or 2 or something like that. But shots on target 2.9 per game. Well, that's 5.8 baseline.
Yeah.
He's got 7.5 in total. Add in the fact that he gets fouled occasionally. Like his baseline would be less than 1 if they hadn't made the baseline. So if they hadn't made these baseline bonus changes, I don't think anybody would have Haaland.
Yeah.
Because I actually think at the moment he would just got no, but he would have continually of I've scored 1 goal and I get 6 points, and everyone goes, that's not enough. That's not enough.
Having said that, his team doesn't keep clean sheets, so that helps him as well on a relative basis. Because who else, like De Bruyne's not playing, who else is getting the bonus if they win?
Yeah.
Guardiola and him.
But they do still benefit him. These things for Haaland, they are good. Rewarding the person who has the most shots on target per game, right, definitely going to be helpful for him.
We can see how it's basically helped him so far this season. So we've got a few here just looking at players just before we get on to all the clubs. But Haaland, in his first season, had obviously like 270 points, 40 bonus, which made up about 15%. This season, he's had 82 points so far, of which 14 have been bonus. It's gone up 17%. Of his points are basically made up through bonus, and his goal involvement's gone up as well, which is good. And I think I might have expected this to be a little bit higher, but again, like this would have been higher if he hadn't got booked at the end of the last game, right? Because he'd have had 2 extra bonus onto this. Little things like that. I would have expected
his goal involvement to be higher, though, wouldn't you? This season, when you look at this season, Foden hasn't scored this season in the Premier League. De Bruyne hasn't scored, or hasn't played.
He hasn't played
in this season. So, and Rodri had a fair amount of goal involvement, in the last few seasons. So 3 people that used to eat into his bonus, 3 people that used to eat into the goal involvement are gone. So I actually would have expected his goal involvement to be more 60, 65, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't look at Vardiol, but I imagine Vardiol's has gone up considerably season on season, and that's probably a big contributor.
Yeah,
for sure. Saka's an interesting one because it kind of shows you the development and like his career progression, and it also sort of shows Arsenal's progression as well as he's sort of come into the team and grown into the team. Obviously 18-19 season, he plays 1 game, gets 1 point. Arsenal in I think it's the 2021 and the 21-22 seasons, they finished like 8th in both of those seasons. And so, in those seasons, he has middling goal involvement, decent amount of points, and 7 to 10% of his points came from bonus, respectively. And then you look at this season and it's kind of just rocketed to like, I'm the main man. This is my team. 56% of all goals have included Saka so far. He's got 67 points, of which 10 are bonus points. 15% of his points have come from bonus. Definitely benefiting him.
Yeah.
I mean, the assists help, right? I mean, compared to Haaland, he has to score 56% of goals, whereas Saka has to get a goal, an assist, and then not be involved in a couple, and that's 50%.
Yeah. But yeah, the corners have definitely helped him more and more in the last 2 seasons. They continually made it more and more as he's been taking those and getting better and better at them. But I think this season as well, with Odegaard out, it's just been all on his shoulders. You can see that, when we're looking at Saka, it's no wonder he gets double, treble marked. They have to, because even with that, like he's still involved in over half Arsenal's goals. Like, I've seen quite a lot recently around Saka of there's still quite a few people that are like, well, now because there's obviously Palmer and people don't really want to sell Haaland before Tottenham, which I fully get. And and Salah and now Bruno obviously is in the mix and so forth. That I think Saka might be a forgotten man actually for a lot of people. They might skip him. But Arsenal are still a bloody good team, and there's a guy here that is involved in over half the goals
In the toughest games.
in their toughest games.
Without one of their key players as well. Well,
Without one of their key
a
players.
couple of them. But yeah.
I still think Saka will score a huge number of points this season.
And then we've got Mo. And I think the level of consistency here, honestly, is just is extraordinary. And we know this, right? But if you consider, it's incredible, actually. Those 4 years from 2020 to 2024, in those 4 seasons, had exactly 43% of all the goal involvement. Over a 4-year period, he had 43% of the domestic goal involvement.
Interesting.
That's insane.
He knew exactly how greedy he could be. Like, he'd be like, I can shoot more this week. Goal was less.
But this season, when you look at it now, like, he's been involved in literally 2/3 of Liverpool's goals. He's got 107 points, of which 21%, 21 bonus. He's picked up 21 bonus, and that is basically 20% of his points have come from bonus. It's literally doubled, almost. It's just
he's
insane.
on 21 bonus, right? Just for reference, Cole Palmer was the top bonus of all players last season on 32 bonus. He's on 21 already.
We're in game week 11, man. I mean,
game week 11.
107 points in game week 11. He's on for 330.
So when we talked earlier about, like, is 5 points or 4 points enough for a defender, it's like, not if you can't have Mo Salah in your team. So if you're someone that's got, say, Foden and Trent in your team, yes, switch that bad boy out to get yourself Mo Salah in the team, because it doesn't make sense, really. It doesn't make sense. You know, he's getting more points for the stuff he does than he's ever done. He's involved in more of the goals than he's ever been.
I've had Salah for 3 game weeks this season. What the fuck am I doing?
I've only had him for 2, mate.
Have you?
But guess what? Guess what?
2.
I've halved my rank since I've had him.
Yeah, there you go.
I've not had him for 3, and that's been the reason. I was lucky enough to start with him. Dropped him on Wildcard. I've corrected that last 2 weeks. But look, I think there's a little bit of, he's also, I don't want to say overperforming, but he's not going to score 350 points. So there is going to be a patch which comes where he doesn't do the stuff. But the thing that's going for him here is 2 elements, which we're trying to basically make the point here in this table. The left one is that he's involved in more, so he's getting more share of the pie. So he's doing more stuff. But then the extreme right is also the most interesting for me. He's getting double the amount for doing the stuff in bonus, which he wasn't doing last year.
Yeah.
So that 2-all chart and the other chart that you had, that shows the case where he won't have got bonus, but now he is for doing just minimal things, which is both of them are adding to the 107.
Well, I mean, in the difference, like in the fixtures that we looked at, it's literally for doing the same thing. He's getting 3 bonus. Like, literally doing the same thing in a game. He's getting 3 extra bonus.
I think even better with him, because, like, we know he's fit. We know that he does every minute he possibly can. But he can do every minute of every game easier than he has been able to do previously, because he's not sprinting as much as he was. He's working in a more patient team. It's in a more disciplined team. It's not high octane back forth basketball stuff. Hence why, like, we all say, yes, he got very lucky with Diego Carlos header to header back, but see how quickly he's gone. Like, but at the end of a game, like, he's not young. I've been moaning last season about times I moan. Mo's old. Don't look old no more. Because he sprints when he needs to. That's why his dribbles are better. That's why all the stuff's better, because, right, don't have to do a lot until I'm isolated, then I go. It's, you know, we've been talking about it, you know, that he jabs, but when he gets the chance, he's in. It's pretty compelling. Let's do some teams, shall we? Is that where we're at?
I think we're at the stage where we need to start looking at some teams. So, yeah, I think 50 minutes we're in now. We said this was going to be half an hour to hear. But we're 50 minutes.
We did a lot of Arsenal, Liverpool talk, Man City talk. So
there'll be a lot of that. I mean, to be fair, in years gone by, we've gone through all teams very fine tooth comb. There are a few teams we can we can
Mm.
talk about very briefly.
Like
And
Everton.
people, well, you didn't have to say it, Pras. We're going to get there, but yes, Everton. Uh, yeah, there's a few that we can brush through. You know, players where we're really not going to look to pick in the short term, medium term, long term, and have just been crap so far this season. So we'll kick off with Arsenal. And so all the tables here are built exactly the same way. So, and all the data that has been put together for these tables has all come from Fantasy Football Hub. So we've got starts. So a player must have had at least 4 starts. There are a couple of exceptions. João Pedro being one of them. You've got goals conceded because it's important for defenders and their baseline. Shots on target because it's new and it's really important for forwards. You've got their average bonus per game and their baseline per game. Listed in order of position as well. So it goes from keepers down to the forwards. And I think a lot of the takeaways we're going to be looking at is obviously the individual players, particularly on the attacking side, but within the defense themselves, what's important is looking at that baseline and understanding who is likely out of that defense to pick up bonus, because they all get the same bits. They all get the same big bits, right? They all get the same decisive action, the clean sheet in particular. So when they all do that, who's above who? And when we look at Arsenal, it's not huge, but Raya 10.8 baseline and Saliba 10.2. It also says here that Arsenal concede less when Saliba's on the pitch, so that's beneficial also to Raya, funnily enough. Calafiori likes to shoot a lot.
Yeah, what is he doing at 1 shot a game?
Well, he does. He likes he got the banger, didn't he, against Man City? He's an all. I think the thing with Calafiori is after seeing him in the Euros, like you kind of expected him to be this all-action hero, and I do think when he plays, if he comes back in and starts playing every week, then I do think he's a pretty good bonus option. I really do, because can do everything with him. Obviously, Saliba's been the one that suffered from an outcome perspective, albeit it's actually 10.2 is baseline. It's okay. It's just whether it's enough. Because as soon as if they scored 2 goals, then nowadays a 2-0 win historically, you used to be able to bank on the defenders to be in it, but he's not going to be in it now because the others are doing pretty good stuff. I think Timber's the really interesting one for this one, for 2 reasons. One is obviously Timber's been playing left back quite a bit this season, but we've got the news that White's out. I've seen 8 weeks, I've seen 12 weeks, but look, that takes us to the new year, and there's a huge number of game weeks now. So
10 game weeks.
You've got 10 game weeks of somebody else playing instead of White. I actually think Thomas Partey's actually done a reasonable job at right back when he's played, and has done a very different game to what we've seen from Timber when he's played left back in that sense. So I think we do have to consider that they're definitely not the same profile of player, and that Partey is an option at right back. He's not really an option in centre midfield now. He is an option that could play there. His baseline, which is really strong, which is 14, has been mainly because he makes a huge number of tackles and he gets fouled quite a lot. And he's been fouled quite a lot when he's playing right back. Timber, we don't know what will happen if he moves to that right back position now White's out. And we don't even know he will move to that right back position if he's out. And we don't know if Calafiori is back. And maybe Calafiori plays left back and Timber plays right back. There's actually quite a lot of stuff, but there is still 3 fullbacks that could play in this. I think the universal is like Timber's now just nailed and that's it. I don't know that there's a compelling enough argument from Timber's baseline to say not only is he back, that is he nailed, but also is he going to get the bonus or do any of those stuff that makes me look at it and think, why not just get Saliba, who's been pretty unlucky to be on 0 points?
I'm with you. I mean, I don't see the appeal. Like, unless someone's telling me that his role is going to completely change and he's going to bomb forward like Ben White used to be involved in that triangle with Odegaard and Saka. Okay, fair enough, but we don't have any evidence of that right now. And so if you're going by, I want a Arsenal body mean, you've got Saliba, you've got Raya for same price. So I don't know why you do that.
I don't get it. There's like if there was something here that says, and if Calafiori's back, there's another guy that's just going to knock him out. Like he's so far behind those. If it's a back four of Calafiori, Saliba, Gabriel, Timber, Raya, you've got a 2 or 6 defender. Not for me, thanks, for over 5 million. When we've just talked about what the difference is in further forward, you might as well just have cheapos. You might as well just have Lewis Hall. You know what I mean? Or Mikalenko.
I mean, the one good thing
Anthony.
of White's injury, and not to obviously celebrate any injury, is one less defender to compete with if they do keep a clean sheet for bonus.
Yeah.
So if you have, let's say, Partey playing there, then it's better for Saliba and Raya and Gabriel and whoever plays off the left, because you guys will get the clean sheet bonus points.
Correct.
I would say on Havertz, I'm not sure this is going to be fully representative of the bonus line. So 5.7 baseline is bad. His bad is because of the amount of work he does. So he's been tackled 31 times because he's always dropping in midfield, and therefore you can get the ball turned over. He's fouled people 20 times in 11 game weeks. That doesn't help him. I'm not sure you lose the fouling because he likes fouling. But yeah, if you're getting lots of minus all the time, it's difficult when you're going to come up against the players around him. For me, Havertz is not free scoring enough for me. He's not on pens. His baseline's crap. He likes fouling people. It makes it hard. Makes it hard for me to pick him. I think when I know that Saka's there and Odegaard's back and these defenders should be good value.
It feels like that big orange line is exactly the right place, doesn't it? Across Saka's line there. That's
yeah.
So, would you be doubling up on Arsenal defenders? Do you think? Do you think it's actually worth it?
I already am. So I'm there.
Well, I know you're there. But do you think would you go there again? Well, you
would I treble up? It might be the question.
No. I mean, if you had I mean, it's not really a transfer out for you, I guess. But if you were to someone who had one Arsenal defender, would you get a second?
Pras answer that more than me because I know you've been considering getting a second one.
I mean, I 100% think you should, but it's not urgent. But I think as a structure, as you look at long-term structures, I think you're now considering a defense that data has told us over the last year and a half, maybe 2 years, is the best defense in the league. If you say, okay, there's been some deterioration. Okay, they're the second best defense. I still don't know who's better. Maybe Liverpool. But they're still a very, very good defense with nailed players who have had a schedule where they've played Chelsea, Newcastle, Bournemouth, Brighton, Man City, Liverpool, pretty much most of them away. So you can now get them and enjoy a very long period of reasonably good fixtures where pretty much in any one of them you can expect a clean sheet. Will they get in all of them? Of course not. But you should get a lot of clean sheets.
Yeah.
For me, it's a no-brainer.
It's such a huge fine line in it. They're conceding just basically one. Is that doesn't turn a huge tap to just be like you concede none.
They've also had a couple of red cards as well. So game states has been like in those games. So obviously the City game and the Brighton game. So
and those one that Baker is talking about is not like the Man City one. Where, 2 seasons ago, Man City used to be like that, where they gave up one chance, 1 goal. This season, and in fact, back end of last season, Man City's 1 goal conceded is on the back of 4 big chances conceded. That's not Arsenal at all. In fact, the 2 games where the whole reason why people are down on Arsenal defense is because home to Southampton, home to Leicester, they conceded. But 0.2, 0.3 XG, that was. They were very unlucky to concede on those games. After that, Newcastle, Chelsea scored. That's not a surprise to anyone.
No.
Moving on to Villa. I mean, the defense just looks a bit, to be honest. I know I mentioned Dean before because obviously he picked up the assist, and he would have picked up some bonus for that game. His baseline's all right, but I'm not overly sold by it, to be honest. They concede too much. Now,
my note was they feel a bit icky in defence.
Yeah,
icky.
like yeah,
It's
about the
annoying.
same.
It's definitely a 1.6 goals conceded behind it. I do think so. Pras, you've had Konza. He looks like easily the standout for me.
4.4, you get like a good rotation going. He's your bread and butter pick. You don't need to get creative with Dean or Cash. Just get Konza.
I think so. I agree.
When I looked at this table, I had a question, maybe controversial question.
Sure.
What does Rogers do? FPL relevant? Like he
When
looks
you-
great. Transition,
Honestly.
turns, find somebody. For FPL, what does he do?
He scores jammy goals. That's what he does. We've all got him, but he scores jammy goals. You think about the goals that he scored this season, the number of times they've just been like deflected and it goes in there and it does this, or it's bad keeping, or it's done that. Like, that is it. But other than that, it's like, oh.
I actually hate owning him. I actually hate owning him. And, considering moving him out over, say, McNeil, for example, which sounds ridiculous.
0.6 shots on target per game for a £5 million midfielder in a decent team, and you watch the player and you think, I back the player, it's pretty good value.
It's fine.
Pretty good value. But it's also okay to bench him. It's very okay to bench him, I believe.
And not to piss off Villa fans, he's a fantastic player. I'm just saying FPL relevance. Like he can make games, he can help with everything that they're trying to do. Emery loves him. Minutes are there. So there's a lot going. He could even be on pens, 20%, I think.
It could be. The thing on the 0.6 shots on target, he's had 20 shots this season, 6 on target. So some of his why his baseline is so bad is because actually he gets quite a lot of minus. I don't mind that from a midfielder. If the way that their baseline's not very... Like, what would I rather? So Tillmans has got a baseline of 17 here, yeah? He's had 2 shots on target this season. Would I rather that, or would I rather have the guy that's had 20 shots? I'd rather 20 shots, 2 shots a game. That's what you get from Rodgers. Like, he could have easily scored against Liverpool, should have scored against Liverpool, missed the target, so that didn't work at all. But if he scores that again, like he does have the ability to bite you when he's on the bench because he's getting 2 shots a game.
Fair enough.
He's definitely not a problem, but I do get it if people want to reach for more. I do get it.
Midfield spots are going to soon become prime real estate. And then you'll wonder if, can I do something more? I have the money. I can take him up to a 7 million guy.
His position will become even more under fire as people move to João Pedro, won't they? Because João Pedro is 5.4. And then it's like, well, I've done that. I've taken a lot of money out of defense. Now I've got lots of money. So where's next? Because when the more times you bench him, you're like, well, maybe I should do something there. Yeah.
You've already mentioned Watkins. You mentioned him earlier. We were talking about the forwards. The fact that he's basically not getting many. In fact, he's getting a lot of big chances, but he's missing the target a lot of times.
And just the minutes. And that's
really
expensive.
A big problem.
It's too much. It's too much to say no.
Agreed.
Brighton. So, best out of the defence here, Verbruggen from a baseline perspective, 11.2. Closely followed by Van Heck, 10.9.
That's the same as it's ever been, isn't it? It's what it always is.
Yeah.
They're the
It's exactly how Brighton have always been. When we were looking at Steele and Sanchez in the past as well, exactly the same.
Always the same. Their keepers always come for loads of crosses. Their keepers are always good ball players. And then the all-action hero defender in Van Heck. It's like exactly what you expect from him.
I mean, Van Heck is the new boring Dunk. I think minutes, like good on baseline. Like the only thing Dunk has over him is now 0.1 in price and maybe the odd free kick, which I haven't seen him take one in a while.
No. Well, no, because Welbeck takes them now.
Yeah.
Welbeck suddenly decided a year ago that he's going to be the best to keep free kick taker in the game, and now Dunk didn't get him. I'm a bit... I just look at it and just look at the strikers, don't you? You just immediately look at it and you're like, I don't really want to look at the rest. I'll just look at those two at the bottom. And Welbeck and João Pedro, they're such good value. But if Welbeck scores 1 goal and João Pedro scores 1 goal, we know where it's going. It's going to João Pedro for it. We assume João Pedro's on penalties.
Oh, for sure.
Welbeck has to be. He's just
his
so
record is amazing.
Just so good at him. So at some point, we all go back to João Pedro.
Yeah, I think that's a given.
I mean, Mitoma was interesting from next week, but this is not very inspiring. I mean, I would have expected a similar uptick. I mean, I'm not the same level as Salah or Saka, but similar position. He's supposed to be a little bit more talismanic, but it feels like he's now feeding the striker more than taking those shots himself.
It just also doesn't help that they play 2 strikers.
Yeah.
Like if Welbeck and João Pedro are both playing, then it's like, well, there's 2 of these guys on the pitch. So they're just sucking it up. These guys are taking like 3 of the bonus between them. Everybody else isn't taking 1. Well, it's maybe just over 1 between them. Like it's just going to go there. It's going to go to those strikers every time. It's very, very limited.
True. Plus easier fixtures. Maybe Mitoma comes into it a little bit more where they have more possession. He can actually do his stuff and not be worried about losing the ball. Maybe.
I want the shooters.
True.
We've got so many midfield shooters that you're like, do I want the dribbler that's just going to assist it? Or not really. I want the shooters.
They have played everyone already. Like Man City, Liverpool, Newcastle, Spurs, Chelsea, Arsenal, Man United. They played all of them. Should be good. Should be thinking about Brighton.
We should be. Stupinan?
I don't know. Again, 5 million, like I'll just go Van Heck. Like I don't see that appeal. Like we always want, that 19-pointer against Arsenal, but I just think he's not that much more attacking that I'll pay 0.5 more. Not yet anyway. I've not seen enough to merit it. He took some corners, I think, a couple of games, but not enough.
Not enough. Bournemouth,
again, keepers. I mean, this is a pretty common theme, to be honest. Quite a lot of these, you'll hear me just say keepers. But yeah, when the keeper starts, they're much better for baseline than any of their defense. The defense is just a bit crap. Semenyo's obviously 1 shot on target per game. But an average is clear. I mean, he does miss the target a lot, and so that obviously impacts his baseline.
I mean, he shoots more than anyone else, basically.
Yeah.
So he's only got 1 shot on target, despite the fact that he shoots more than everybody else. I mean, bear in mind, we said Haaland had 2.9.
We've all seen we've all seen these tables, like top five shots, and like Semenyo makes all of these lists.
He's had 15 shots off target in 11 games, and also what doesn't help his bonus is that he's just a bit niggly, isn't he? He's been booked 4 times. He committed 18 fouls in 11 games, so he gets booked all the time, does that stuff, and he's like quite a high volume winger. So he's been tackled 35 times this season. So he gets tackled 3 times a game, lose -1 every time. So all of those things have meant that even though he's been brilliant, the bonus, like Evan Nielsen just has to wait for Van den Berg to pass to him and then go around the keeper and slot one in, and doesn't matter if he doesn't do anything else, he's probably still going to beat Semenyo on the bonus, because of all the other stuff that's done.
That's why the context is so important. This would look. I mean, like if he doesn't get that, he doesn't get part of the bonus that he got that week.
Yeah, but if he just happens to tap one in, then
it should be no problem. He should get
the wannabe Pras takes home the bonus.
Let's just move him like that.
Just move him close. That's good. That's good. Yeah, I mean, I look at this. I still like Semenyo. I look at it and go, I like Semenyo. I like Evan Nielsen. I'm not going to anyone else all season.
Yep, fair. Unless Kluivert starts playing every game. But this is a good example. Shots on target, as you mentioned. There's 4 players with 1 shot a game on target. So the goals will be spread.
They will be spread. It's hard to predict because they're 1 shot on target each, but they're not going to score 3 goals every game.
Exactly. But I like this. Like better than Mitoma, better than Rogers. Semenyo is good pick with good fixtures. Like
Yeah.
people should hold if they can.
Yeah, I'll go Semenyo over Mitoma. Just looking at what we just saying.
You'd have
Just
Semenyo
in
over
general.
Rodgers?
Yes.
Yeah, I would do now. I took it out a few weeks ago to get Salah in. I took Rodgers out over Semenyo, but then my question always would have been, would I have played Semenyo over some of the strikers? I'm not sure I will. So I think I'd have him, but I think I'd still be on the bench, and I paid £500,000 more for him, and that was the bit that I really struggled with.
Same logic, exactly.
Flecken.
Oh my God, like Flecken. So Flecken currently has a baseline of 14.5. It's genuinely insane if you consider that Brentford's defence concede on average 2 goals per game. That would put his prior season baseline at like 22.5, which would be better than pretty much every player that's ever played FPL.
Yeah, and he still would have got no bonus.
And he still would have got
because he concedes 2 goals a game.
Yeah, exactly. It's absolute madness. The defense is doing him absolutely no favors. Thomas Frank's doing him no favors.
The interesting part though is that he's such standout compared to the defenders around him that they ever do clean. It's a nailed on slam dunk, not even a question. Probably, I mean, they'd have to score, and even then it's not that far away. Now, Pinnock and Collins do score, but that's the only way they're beating him on it. It probably just leans into whoever does score for them has a really good chance of the bonus. And therefore, Damsgaard, Bumo, and most importantly, Wissa, if he's just the number 9, getting all the chances. They just... Yeah, I mean, Damsgaard doesn't have any shots to speak of, so he does all the creativities. He's had 4 shots in 9 games on target. We're not doing that.
I mean, if you look at the entire team, I'm not considering Sharda here really because he's only really started 5 games, but you've got Bumo and Wissa, and then you've got Lewis Potter, and then you've got Nathan Pinnock, Pinnock, even not Nathan, Ethan Pinnock, who's basically leading shots on target for Brentford centre back. Yeah.
Bumo, Wissa, really good picks. Will get bonus whenever they score.
And
they have to score.
And a lot
they
of
have
Bumo's,
to score as well, don't they?
Yeah. A lot of Bumo's bonus has obviously come with Wissa out the side. So I'd expect almost Bumo's to soften a little bit.
Say it, but if Bumo scores and Wissa scores, then Bumo gets the bonus. Because he's that far ahead.
He creates so many chances. All set pieces.
He's that far ahead at 14 baseline versus 5.7. He's got 8 on him.
Yeah, he's got 8
and
on him.
it's only a 6. It's only a 6 swing on the thing. So Bumo still, if he scores a goal, then he's almost certainly going to get it every time. So although it might drop, if he gets 2 and Wissa gets 3, we don't care with Bumo owners. But can you have both and do well? Like you've got both at the moment, Adam. Yeah. And does it look like a good double up? Yeah.
I mean, Bumo's best cap next week. I mean, if you can go, it's either Palmer or him.
Away Leicester.
I don't think there's a better cap. He's home Leicester.
Home Leicester's even better, yeah. But then I've also
at the time when Spurs play, Liverpool play Man City.
Yeah. I've just realised that is the probably the worst cropped photo. Have you noticed he's like webbed right hand?
I have just and left.
That's
what have you done to
My
it?
bad.
Move on. Go to Chelsea.
Get off that screen.
My God, we got a lot of teams to get through, haven't we?
Yep. We're good. We're good for time. It's all good.
There's quite a few teams where we will not be talking about them, just for reference for anyone in the chat.
So for Chelsea, obviously Palmer's leading the way for absolutely everything. Sanchez is the best for baseline at the back. Albeit I've added Reece James in here because there may be a conversation around him at some point because his baseline, given that they concede more when he's on the pitch, by the looks of it, his baseline is still above everybody else in his defence, but still won't get it
Mhm.
over Sanchez. All things being equal, he would need an attacking return to differentiate him from there. But I don't know
Yeah.
whether he's going to get that playing left back.
That's some of the problem. Do you know what? I've read quite a few things in the last few weeks, and they've all talked about how pivotal Malo Gusto is in terms of how they move the ball. And you're like, I don't like it when I don't like that. Like if you were looking at Reece James and thinking, well, I want him right back and I want him moving forward, and they're talking about Gusto being pivotal. I'm like, hold on. I don't think you can pick him all the time. He's currently starting at left back when he starts.
It's basically Sanchez Colwell. Those are the two if you want to defense. That's it. Like anyone else is during midweek games is just not no go in defense. Even Sanchez, like no matter what Maresca says, the Chelsea fans keep telling us not to pick him.
Yeah.
I mean, West Fofana would be a lot better if he just stopped getting booked.
But where's the dog? He
He's
said
the
it
dog.
himself last
Yeah,
week.
he did.
He literally said it. I'm the dog. Like, we're going to show a few in a minute, but actually, just in general, it is something we talked about it in the preseason pod. Dogs score more than cats. For those that have been around, the attacking defender does get bigger bonus than the defensive one, even if they do get booked more.
More
Because they're challenging
clearances.
all the times. They get fouled all the time. They're shooting. Like it does play through in quite a few of these. But I mean, Cole Palmer, 32 bonus last season, the best in the game. He's had an extra in 11 games, he's had 26 extra bonus from being fouled, and from shooting. The best in the game last season gets a bump. It's just 16 baseline for Cole Palmer is insane.
When you have an attacker in your team who doesn't hit the target as much, is even better, relatively.
Yeah. Yeah,
A
Nico
forward.
Jackson's not bad though. Like it's not
Yeah.
bad, and I still think that he will return relatively reasonably. I think it's still good, the changes for Nico, because it's that other stuff, isn't it? Missed the big chance, but it's on target. Well, it's not so bad for him as it used to be. But Palmer's just, yeah, it's hard not to want everybody in this. That's my problem. I'm looking at it. I'm like, I want everyone. Crystal Palace.
First non-keeper topping here, but I just wouldn't want to pick a Palace defender. Like, so Mark Gahey,
No.
10.5. I mean, Chalobah's there, but he'd only played 5 games, which is why I didn't highlight him. But Chalobah, 12.4. He has been playing more recently, though, so it could be a cheap option. I think the message here really is if they get a new manager bounce, and once Eze's back, then things should improve, and it's really just about Eze.
It's all about Eze, isn't it? Which is good. You quite like it when it's like, well, it's all going to be about one person, really.
Yeah. Doesn't make you feel so guilty. I mean, Wharton obviously tops baseline here, but you're not picking Wharton for anything else. So he's not gonna pick up any bonus anyway.
Eze. If they get the bounce, he's on it. We all flock to Eze. If they don't, we don't.
Cool.
Fair.
Everton. I have no idea why I highlighted Pickford's 0 shots on target here, but
I like it.
Well, it's close to Calvert-Lewin, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's great.
Actually, 0.9 is not bad.
0.9 is not bad, but his baseline is 3.2. It's considerably one of the worst of the forwards. Michael Keane at 4.6 is incredible as well.
Because he keeps missing chances.
Because he misses chances as well.
The mad stuff is that Calvert-Lewin at 3.2, if he scores, he's actually still in the bonus probably, unless McNeil and I also score.
They're never winning 3-0.
They're never winning 3-0. Yeah. So he probably would still get bonus if he scored. But the issue is that this is exactly when we're talking about, yes, what we're seeing is, does this man offer anything? And the answer is No. So when we've just seen João Pedro on like 12, 13, it's because he offers so much around the pitch. He's got so many different ways. Calvert-Lewin's just there to stick the ball in the net if he gets the chance. And if he doesn't get the chance, or even if he does get the chance, as you've told us many, many, many times, is he needs more than one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
and therefore,
again, we just feed back to the start where we say like a goal is 24, a shot on target is 2, and if it's the game-winning goal, it's another 3.
he
So
get 30 points.
it now just requires him to get the goal, and he's involved, and that's just. It feels, I don't know, it just feels a bit rubbish that. I mean, it doesn't feel rubbish, I suppose. If Calvert-Lewin scores a goal and wins the game, then fair enough, I guess.
But I think McNeil's, if you're looking at the fact that he just looks such a standout in this team in terms of based on everything, I would not be surprised to see McNeil get sort of like, like JWP used to just chuck in a 150 season and it would go like that. Well, he's a bit cheaper than JWP ever was. And I think I would not be surprised if we got to the end of the season and McNeil had 150 points.
Yep. Him and Pickford feel like great draft picks. Just get them. They'll do stuff.
Yeah, I feel like I'll sell McNeil at some point, and then he will score 15 points in the week.
Yeah,
It's kind of how it will work. It's one of those you can't time right.
It probably would. I mean, you've got McNeil and Rodgers, haven't you?
Yeah.
Oh, do you know? I would probably be tempted to keep McNeil over Rodgers because it's a similar price. Probably when you bought them, it's a bit more now, but.
But Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City in a row.
Yeah, but you're not playing him anyway. It's academic actually, because most of them are just going to chuck him on the bench anyway.
Fair. Still want to look at something green, even first bench. But I get your point.
Yeah. It's McNeil, Pickford or nothing. We done with him?
Yeah, I've already moved on to Fulham, mate. So Leno, again, for the second season in a row, he's just great for baseline. Best in his side. However, obviously, Robinson is much more attacking. He doesn't have any shots on target. He hasn't shot yet, but he's fantastically creative, and so has been getting. His baseline's great because he's creating all these chances, and he's actually been getting some assists as well. So, obviously, when Robinson gets an attack in return, he's going to be above Leno. I think I'm really interested with going back to Robinson.
I am.
To be honest, him, and then there's one other player that we'll talk about later. We'll talk about later. That the two that I'm thinking of maybe making a Trent move for. Just feels like a good way to free up some money to get into like Salah and Palmer, and fixtures are still good.
Your boy Anderson, you had him last year as well. I remember at Palace. He's not bad either. 10 baseline bonus.
He's not bad, and he gets shot. He shoots. That was what was great about him last year, and I think because I had him for that Old Trafford goal 15-pointer last year, and so that was that. I think I probably held on to him too long after that, but he has that in his locker. He does have it there, and he gets clearances. I mean, he did a couple of clearances off the line and stuff against Palace last week, so he'll pick up stuff from that as well, but. Smith Rowe.
You can see why Smith Rowe's getting those points, can't you? It's when you see this baseline, 13.3 baseline for Smith Rowe, I constantly talk about the fact that I think Smith Rowe really is just playing like a shadow striker. He's not really touching the ball a lot. He's just arriving in the box. He's just stabbing it in and do this stuff. But he's doing more from an FPL perspective, and it just means 13 points. I mean, what this all looks at is that in general, I actually see him as a team for Fulham. You look at this compared to a lot of other teams. They're a good team. They're well drilled. They do all the good stuff. Even the goals conceded is pretty low. It's very similar, those goals conceded, to Arsenal's defence. It's not far off. They're a good team. And it plays out in their baseline across the team. So therefore, the players that return are likely to be the ones that get the bonus. Jimenez still, if he scores, it's absolutely fine. He'll definitely get bonus if he scores. But Iwobi, Smith Rowe, I said to you earlier, is that Iwobi's got the same amount of points this season as Trent Alexander-Arnold. So that old game of, like you say, of playing a £7 million defender and saying, "Oh, well, I wouldn't swap him for any £7 million midfielder in the game." That game's gone.
That's changed.
That's changed. You'd have Smith Rowe over Wobie over any defender in the game. That's insane to say. But Smith Rowe, you definitely would. Like if I was like, "Oh, do I bench this week?" Well, it's not going to be Smith Rowe. He's still a really good asset, and the fixtures aren't terrible. They are not terrible. Good team, good players. Ipswich.
Not a great team.
Beat us, mate, but
I had this discussion with someone on X earlier or the other day, and Flappy said something like, "Shouldn't all teams beat Ipswich?" or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's still not great though. I mean, when the defense feels just like a complete no-go because they're conceding 2 goals a game and they're down in the bottom of the league, and so you just, I mean, unless you're parking a 4 million, but then are you ever going to play him? Like, it's probably fine if you're literally never going to play them. Then just park one down there. But
yeah, I think Leif Davis can always be. Like, there'll be times where you think, "Well, this is the opportunity to play him. This is the fixture." There's some good fixtures, and when they are, he's done all right when people have played him. But yeah, Greaves isn't coming off my bench ever, whether he's fit or not. He's just sitting there at the end. And just in general, you look at it and you're like, can't trust it. Don't need to look at it. Don't want to bring him in. Do I desperately need to move out Leif Davis? Probably not. But we don't get them. Agreed.
don't get these
Agreed.
either. Don't get these either. Leicester.
I just think move. Can you see yourself buying Leicester player this season?
I mean, people had Vardy, but even
he's all right.
he was all right, yeah. But again, he's now competing with many other cheap forwards that are doing well.
I just can't. Not 0.5 shots on target per game.
This was
Can't
my
do
issue
it.
even during the time when we were debating getting DCL. Now, obviously, Vardy would have been better anyway, but yeah, just not somewhere you need to go. Buonanotte, people talked about. His shot
Yeah.
volume is actually okay, close to 1 a game, but still, he's like 5.1 now, 5.2, something around that. There's other picks.
There's just so much more if you just go to Semenyo, for example.
Yeah, I can't be dealing with it.
Liverpool. Interesting this one because Alisson, as I mentioned, is top for baseline across the defence. And although Konate's technically is the lowest out of the defence, if you actually take the second half that he played against Ipswich where he was fantastic, then Trent's baseline is the worst of the entire defence, which has never happened. It's literally never happened. And whilst we say that his creativity's gone, this was the big thing we've been saying all season, right? Is the fact that his creativity has dropped. But it's okay because he shoots and all this sort of stuff. 0.2 shots on target per game. Like, what's the point?
His shots are often speculative, so they rarely do hit the target.
Exactly. So I don't think, and I know he's had like 0.6 bonus points per game so far, but you've just said that you'd rather have Iwobi and Smith Rowe over him. I think that's pretty reasonable to say that. So I don't think he's worth the 7 million. I think he's a very quick sell out of my team now, to be honest. Obviously injured, so that doesn't help. But it's just not the same. It's just not the same role, right? That we've seen Trent do in the past, and doesn't need it because on that right hand side, Salah is being literally, as you mentioned, isolated on that right hand side all the time, and he doesn't need the support of Trent because he's generally 1-on-1, or he's running onto through balls and things like this. So yeah, I find the Liverpool defense pretty interesting. Like Virgil van Dijk's interesting, albeit probably too expensive, and I guess that's why Konate's just been, the popular pick. over socials and everywhere, because it does make sense. If you want to path into there, then you're not hanging your hat on Queven Kelleher for 5 or 6 games.
What about Konate, Pras? What do you think?
I think he's an okay option. I don't know if it's Trent blinders, or I'm just not able to triangulate the fact that we're talking about Liverpool as the most improved defense, the best defense. And then I look at the data and I say Trent is the best attacking defender, and then he's not valued at 7 million. It's just not making sense. And is it that I am not accounting for his role change, but his XA is 0.3 per game compared to 0.27 last year. So I know you asked about Konate, but basically I wanted to also say that I'm not there yet. Okay, I don't have him, but I'm still aspiring to get him at some point. I do think he will become an edge, especially in no Haaland teams at some point. And then at Konate, yeah, I think he's a good pick. I think he's 5.4 now.
Yeah.
And I don't think like the whole rotation thing is out of the window. The only reason not to get him is if you think he is injury prone or whatever, which I don't think, you have to. I think people will wait a couple of weeks once they've played Man City, once they've played Newcastle. And then I think Konate will become more popular for sure.
I think the Trent thing, I think the Trent thing is just, maybe it's just actual performance in front of our eyes more than anything. Because if you look at, like, if you take it all the way back, we did the comparisons of Saka and Salah from like seasons gone by. We did do that for Trent as well. So if you look at like 18-19, he was involved in 21% of Liverpool's goals, 19-20, 24%. And then through the seasons, 17%, 17%, 18% for the next 3, 15% goal involvement last season, 5% this season.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
It's mad, isn't it?
That's the thing. And I think,
that goal involvement is killing their bonus. It is killing them. They've had 6 cleans for 19 bonus, right? This time last season, they'd had 3 cleans. So half the cleans, 21 bonus.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is basically a topic for talking to somebody from Liverpool, a Liverpool fan who watches him, live and tells us something that we're not seeing in the numbers. I'm just not in the numbers. I'm not seeing a reason not to get him. And maybe we will see. But Konate is interesting. And now that he's the same price as Alisson is interesting.
Yeah. I think in general, this level of control that we see across the team, this is sort of playing out a bit more. When we never done these previously, you used to see the Man City ones, and it was like everybody has double digits, and it's playing out a little bit. This control means everyone gets the pass numbers, everyone gets good pass completion, everyone gets a little bit of the pie. It does mean those that are involved in the goals will get it, and obviously Diaz is slightly skewed in that he had 2 or do you have 3 braces like already? Like, but obviously you get braces, it improves your good shots on target and improves your bonus because you get 3 in each of those. So those do make a big deal, but I don't think we talk more about most than it is. But it is, yes, it's just silly numbers. 21 key passes in 11 games, like he's prime creator. He's at 18 fouls, 18 dribbles, 20 shots on target. No, it all just leads. It all massively leads that way. Curtis Jones with a huge baseline. I would say just in general, I mean, it's obviously a small sample, 4 games and all of that, but I think they're a better team when Curtis Jones playing over Szoboszlai recently.
Absolutely.
I feel like he's coming for Szoboszlai as well and saying, I'm going to be the boy on it. And he can be a little greedy, Jones. So I'd be interested to see where he comes, whether suddenly starts eating a little bit of Mo's bonus in how he plays and what he does. But I think we're seeing he's ready. Like last season, I thought he was brilliant, and it's getting better and better what we see from him. I think Harvey Elliott was getting close to taking Szoboszlai as well before he got injured, and I think Jones is coming for it right now.
Yeah, Jones is showing what we thought Szoboszlai would at the beginning of the season. Like we thought he'd be critical in this system, that number 10 making the run. Just not done anything this year. Like he's been okay, but Sobo's been quite disappointing.
They've got so many games. I can see it being Szoboszlai play the Champions League games and he'll play the Prems very, very soon. What we got? Man City?
Before we move on to Man City, there is one thing I need to ask of everyone here in the live chat and anyone who's watching back and has managed to stumble across this fantastic timestamp of Liverpool to Man City, because that's the one that everyone wants to watch. Please make sure you do hit the like button on the video. And if you want to see more from us, make sure you do subscribe. Follow us all on all the new socials and stuff. Go ahead to Blue Sky and you'll find us all there. You'll find us all on X. You'll find Pras at the FPL Wire and all that good stuff. If you're listening to us on podcast, please do drop a review and let us know how we're getting on. And that's the admin piece out of the way, and we can go back to Man City.
It's not admin, man. Like, you guys do a fantastic job on Sunday nights. And if you're one of the new ones who are tuning in, I mean, this is like a must listen on every Monday morning, wherever you are, to summarize the games. I mean, that's your bread and butter. That's the beautiful stuff. Like the Sunday night comfort blanket of listening to all the FPL implications of all the games. It's fantastic. So you guys deserve a lot more in terms of subscribers, lovers of the pod as we are.
Thank you.
That's very nice. Thank you. We do what we do. So City, Gvardiol's baseline, we've already mentioned it, is wild. Shots on target volume is huge. But outside, I mean, this just feels like it's Gvardiol and Haaland and nothing else. I don't think there's a world where I would want to triple up on City. I know you're looking at Foden's baseline. I can see you staring at me through the screen at Foden's baseline, Baker.
Well, it's not just Foden, but it's also KDB in here. And the thing with Foden and KDB is they've got to oust Palmer or Saka or Salah or Son or whoever you've got in that world, and you can only have one of them. And potentially, I struggle to see a world where they would beat Palmer or Salah as options. So they've got to beat Son and Saka effectively in that world. And by having them as part of that free, you definitely aren't in Haaland, are you? So they need to take on those guys. I think what we are seeing in general is 15, 16, 17, 18 baselines. They're strong, these numbers we're seeing from these guys. They are taking a decent number of shots. They're doing high level of control, high level of possession, high level of they get fouled a lot. All of the things that stands out that means that the defense is really Gvardiol or nothing. We've talked so much about the Lewis upside, but it's not there. 8.1 baseline. It's not there.
No shots.
No shots.
Nothing. Just no attack.
Not on target. He's hit the crossbar a couple of times, but
no shots on target.
No shots on target. Akanji and Gvardiol are always going to beat him. I'm surprised Ederson's is as low as it is, because I think Ederson's been playing very well.
Keeps bailing them out, but doesn't help, right? If you still concede.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, he's not doing much else. He's not doing loads more, is he? He's conceding, he's playing, and he's getting his +4 points on average for passing. So he's getting little bits.
So De Bruyne back will probably reduce that Foden baseline, because obviously he's got a lot of set piece at the moment. So a lot of that will go down as De Bruyne starts to take that up. So that will do that. I do look at it and think, if somehow KDB's back and he's fit, he's healthy, he gets a run, it's not a now, but if he's taking those, like he was at 0.8 just on the 4 games he's played, shots on target, would I be surprised if that was 1.2, 1.3 shots on target in a guy that was already in a position where he used to get bonus even if he got 1 assist in a game? If we get good signs on KDB, I'm much more tempted to lean into KDB than I would probably be Foden right now. I
think KDB's become one of those pipe dreams that we think
it's a unicorn.
We think we know him as an FPL option. He's just not the same. Like, his body's not the same, his minutes are not the same. And we're entering the Christmas period. Like, midweek Premier League games for Man City, you're not touching it. Like, the only thing we're talking about is how much can De Bruyne play that will positively affect Haaland rather than De Bruyne himself. or Foden himself. So it's basically the interplay around that. No
Yeah.
one's very hard to pick De Bruyne in that midfield that we've talked about.
But if KDB scores, Haaland's got pretty much Hattie to try and take him, I reckon, in some of these games going forward. Like there is a world where if Foden and KDB, so everyone's talking about Foden and KDB, they get up and running, it's definitely going to be good for Haaland. Yes, they'll do that, but if KDB and Foden start scoring, that won't be good so much for Haaland's bonus.
Yeah.
Which is why I was talking about the goal share earlier. It's all going that way because the guys above him are not scoring. Yeah.
I mean, Lewis is still fine. Just to finish the defender chat, he's still 4.7, 4.8. And Flapjack's in the chat. We can't have a bad word about Lewis as much. Leave him there as a fourth defender. Don't play him in the next couple. And maybe, Walker gets... I think he's like a nice little 4.5, 4.7 option that unless it's a problem or you need like the 0.2 more, get rid of Mikolenko's or the Pinnocks or other crappy stuff that you have. Like, you don't need to sell a Man City defender. There's a lot of early kickoffs as well, by the way, coming up for Man City in November, December.
That's interesting. Flappy was, Flappy was so committed that he was still even really excited when he saw Walker was started and Rico was on the bench because he was like,
yes. Of course, we might need to start him against Spurs.
We might need to. Let's go your team.
It's a bit of unknown, right? I mean, these guys looking backward, data is completely irrelevant. Like, what we know from us is Bruno Fernandes has been good, has always been good. And that's just not Nistelrooy time. That's been good Ten Hag time.
Yep.
But the problem was he was doing a lot of the dirty work, which for baseline is fine. But for FPL points is not so great because he's not as involved. And if he is involved, then his teammates don't finish his chances. But now with Nistelrooy and we think with Amorim, he won't have that. He'll have a double pivot, which Amorim likes. And that double pivot does the dirty work. You have 5 at the back. Again, the people who will track back. Bruno will do his stuff, but he will be all action. He'll assist, he'll score, he'll take set pieces, he'll take penalties. Basically a dream FPL pick.
Yeah, so we think that if they play the 3-4-2-1, it looks like the right attacking mid. So it's like a left is like a support striker and the right is more of an attacking mid.
Yep. That does all the stuff, the good stuff we like.
All the stuff. Now, what I would say is Ahmad's showing that he could do that role. Like he's used, for example, Marcus Edwards to do it at Sporting Lisbon in a way that was like a winger that turned to be a sort of prime creator type stuff. If I'm assuming Bruno takes that role, like I think we're all assuming Bruno takes that role. But if for some reason he decides I don't like those midfielders and I'm going to put Bruno back there and he puts Ahmad as the right attacking mid, like he becomes the greatest like of the options that you'd put as your fifth mid stroke 8th attacker.
Yeah.
Yep. There is upside. Even with Menu. Even Menu could take that on the left side. Menu could take that role. You could have Casemiro and Ugarte playing the double pivot. So I think the thing with Man United is we've assumed Bruno is the pick because we know what we'll get with him with 95% certainty.
Yeah.
But there's still a pick or two that will be the gem that emerges when a new magic comes in. Whether that's Mazraoui bombing forward in the wing-back role or Dalot. Whether that's Menu, as we mentioned, could be Garnacho, who's basically the attacking wing back or plays, could be Rashford. There was some talk that Haaland isn't ready yet. So the first choice striker who makes the runs in behind will be Rashford. So there's so much that we will learn. And luckily, after the next 2 games, they play 3 not so great games. So you can actually watch them for 5 games and then jump in when you think you're ready with the right setup.
Just because I'm preempting something now. This is a more team selection type thing for you, Praz. Is there enough that you would potentially captain Bruno Fernandes this weekend?
Not this weekend. I think there's enough options. Like you're not captaining him over Salah this week or Haaland this week. Next week is home to Everton. Yes.
As we stand, Adam doesn't have Salah, Palmer, or Haaland. Is that still correct?
That's still correct.
We're assuming that probably or may change by
Oh,
the
definitely,
weekend.
that
but
definitely will change. I will have one of Palmer or Salah, maybe both.
Then they're better. But then I think
But I also have
apart
Bruno.
from Salah, Haaland, Palmer, the next in line is Bruno, maybe an Isak, something like that. Maybe Saka. So
Yeah.
that's the tier 2. All of them are good.
Yeah.
You mentioned Isak. So let's move to Newcastle,
Yes, let's do it.
where my potential Trent replacement sits in
Yeah.
Lewis Hall. Like, he's low-key gone under the radar, I think. But the biggest, so he's been incredibly good.
Yeah, since he got the drop, he like got dropped and then's got back in. And since he's got back in these last sort of 3-4 games. In fact, just in general, that Hall's the left back, Livermento's the right back. That's exactly what it's going to be. That's it now. I think has made a huge difference. It's like that you can almost tell when you're watching them play. They know they are the right. They are the fullbacks now. They played the fullbacks. You know, they play fullbacks tonight for England.
Yeah, they were the
Yeah.
2.
They were the 2. It's a big deal.
I just have trust issues still with Newcastle defense. Like, I've gone from 2 seasons ago going Newcastle defense. I tripled up on Newcastle double game week. You remember that famous Isak versus, what did I? No, I didn't. I captained Trippier and I had Pope. But
You did.
I've gone from that to going, they're so rubbish. There's just such a rubbish defense. I just don't see the conviction. Like, I see a little bit of upside. But you look at their next few games, West Ham at home. Do they keep a clean sheet?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Probably.
Maybe.
I
Crystal Palace away, no clean sheet. I don't see it. Liverpool home, no clean sheet. Brentford away.
No. Brentford
No?
away, no.
Brentford away, no.
Brentford away,
clean
no
sheet, no.
chance.
Then
So
you
the
have
West Ham
Leicester
game,
home.
really.
You have Leicester home. That's a good one. Ipswich away. I don't see it. Villa home. I don't see it. Man United away. I don't see it. Spurs away. I don't see it. So now we're into January.
This was something that I've been beating on the drum for, is their home away split. And actually, when you look at their numbers, actually they're not, this season in particular, they're not that bad away from home. They're nowhere near as bad as I thought
they're
they
not that good at home. Do you know what I mean? They're not as good at home as they were in previous seasons.
No.
They're slightly better away, but they're slightly worse at home.
But they've had sort of moving parts around the defence. I know there's like 8 starts here.
Yeah.
That's quite a few. But there's been a few moving parts around here. And I think if Hall, Livramento, Share and Burn is the 4.
It's also the 3 in front. Now we've got Tonali, Bruno and Joe Lind. Like, there's very few midfield 3s better than them 3. Very few. When you look at the teams that are sort of challenging for the sort of top 4 in amongst those guys, certainly I think that's comfortably the best midfield 3 out of any of the ones that would say they potentially are looking at challenging around Europe.
I think the thing with Lewis Hall as well, I mean, the only time, so in each of the games that they've cleaned, apart from the Arsenal game, he's been booked, which has bumped him out the bonus big time. So in the Arsenal game, he gets the clean, he gets 2 bonus because Isak scores, obviously. And so he's going to be in and around it.
I think from a he's less than 4.5 midfield million. I don't think there's any, for me, there's no argument. He's a really good asset.
Fair enough. I mean, the other thing about your home away thing, right? Their home games have been very tough. They've played Arsenal at home, Man City at home, Spurs at home, and Brighton at home.
Yeah.
You can't judge defensive numbers of those 4 fixtures.
Yeah, very good point. That's why we use it. That's why you're here for the context, sir.
I mean, they also played Southampton at home. I chose to ignore that.
Yeah.
So, just in general, there's a lot of single figures here. That's when you look at this, you're like, straight away, a lot of single figures here. Pope or Hall looks like one of those if they get the clean. Then you get Bruno needs to score. If Bruno scores, because Bruno gets the baseline massive bump, same as everybody knew at the start of the season, the most fouled player in the league is still the most fouled player in the league. Like, I don't know. I don't really even understand. How many times do you think he's been fouled in 11 games this season? 45.
4.5 times a game. Ridiculous.
Second most in the team is Gordon on 26. So remember when that came out, everyone was like, "Oh my god, Gordon's going to be the one." 45 versus second place Gordon and 26. Like, I don't know what Bruno does, but he just gets fouled. So that's why his baseline's where it is, because he gets 4.5 baseline just off being fouled. That's not so good for FPL, but it does mean if he scores, he's always in amongst it. It just leads when it's all quite low to, if you score goals, you're going to get bonus. Hence why Barnes has been able to score goals and get bonus so far this season. Isak, Isak really interests me as a Solanke owner. I'm looking at Solanke versus Isak, and I'm like, why would I have Solanke over Isak? I don't.
Isak's good, man.
It's just
Isak's
good, isn't he?
I mean, we had a lot of these players. It feels like my whole team is coming around to my Game Week 1 team. Like my Game Week 1 team had Hall, Isak, Salah, and it's just, I'm just picking those players, Rodgers, and coming back to the same players because they were good, and they were good then, they're good now.
I think there's no competition between Isak and Watkins as a pick.
No, not for me. Hall, Gordon obviously is pretty good for a really, really creative player. And obviously he gets a bump because he now gets some set pieces, which makes him just a better asset in general. It's just whether the money that you get is not cheap. Hall, Gordon, Isak, they're your assets. Popes could be okay.
It's a big leap of faith for clean sheets. Like, I'm definitely not there yet. Like 2 seasons ago, we were all there. Not yet.
Not yet. Well, the next team we've been getting some cleans.
Nottingham Forest. So yeah, Ola Aina, top on baseline, top on bonus actually as well for the defense. Murillo, as you mentioned, like the dog, he is up there as well, almost 11 on baseline, ahead of Sells. I mean, to be fair, they've done so well in front of him that actually I don't think Sells has done as much as some of the other keepers from a baseline perspective. He hasn't needed to, but he still picked up a decent amount of bonus, primarily because it's all either going to Wood or the defense. It's not going in the middle, not really. It's either Chris Wood or it's in the defense. Yeah.
Despite there's some decent baselines there. Hudson-Odoi and Anderson are big, but Chris Wood who doesn't do a lot to still have a baseline of 7. You're like, well, as soon as he scores, then that's that. And the defenders have kept loads of cleans, and not conceded many goals. So that obviously inflates what the baseline does, this stuff. There is that bit that I said about the cat v dog. So Milinkovic, the cat, he's sweeping all the time. He's not really gaining the fouls. He's not doing. Murillo does Murillo's had 10 more BPS from passing. He's had 13 more from the blocks and interceptions of getting involved, and 10 from dribbles. So all of those little things mean that he just Murillo's always I've seen a lot of people look up Milinkovic, and I'm like, you just go Murillo over Milinkovic every day.
People keep saying Milinkovic's going to score. Where? I don't see 1 shot on target all season. 2, maybe.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that's it.
Just go Murillo. If you can do it, but just go Aina over both of them.
Well, question is, do you go anywhere near them now if you don't have them?
That's the thing, isn't it?
Because the fixtures have been so good.
Yeah, and they have been very good, and now they turn. So you could argue the old Nuno style, they could still do well, and you'll still just be on the sidelines missing out, or it actually comes around.
Yeah, the problem with Nuno. So I've got Wood now. I've got Wood and Rodgers, as it were, and I'll play Rodgers in the aim is that I'll play Rodgers in the games where Wood doesn't have the good games as such. But if you do look at it and you go, old Nuno style, do you remember the old Wolves meme of like the
Yeah.
Wolves when they had the hard games and just terrible when they had the easy ones? You do wonder it a little bit in these next few games of will I get stung benching Wood occasionally, because if he does score, it's difficult. It's
I mean,
difficult.
it does suit their style, not having a lot of possession. Although, are we looking at old school Nuno? Are we looking at the new style Nuno? The new
Exactly.
Nuno actually can keep the ball well as well and do stuff with it. So
Yeah.
we'll see. I think they haven't had the real test that they were about
Yeah.
to get into after Ipswich, I think, or even starting this week, they play Arsenal. So we'll see. I think I'm very curious. I've not had a Nottingham Forest player all season, and I've missed out a lot in terms of points, but now I'm not
Yeah.
going there.
Southampton. Yeah, I just think they don't do it. I mean, it's all very well looking at the baseline of this team, but when defenders concede too much and the keeper concedes too much, you don't pick them. And when the strikers don't score enough goals, like, you just don't pick them. So I think whilst the baselines look okay within their own team, like Flynn Downs, for example, but he doesn't do anything, so 13 is okay, but like, what's the point? Dibbling, sure, they get bonus potentially when he scores, but a baseline of 6, like, he does a lot of crap wrong. I don't know.
Dibbling was like the most missold player by fans. Like, he was being touted, I think, in the second international break as the next, whatever. He's the pick, like the 4.5 million pick. He's done nothing.
He went up to 4.9, didn't he?
And he gets booked. There we go. Let's just move on from Southampton. Sorry for any Southampton fans.
I just wanted to do a Dibbling vent. I was very close to him a couple of times.
We're coming up on 2 hours, and I'm just realizing now we're looking at Spurs. The thing is, when we start talking about Tottenham, we can tend to go off on one a little bit. So
yeah, that's why you're here. Son has a baseline of 16.5. That's more than Palmer.
It's quite high.
I mean, I think it just we watch Son and we always go, like, our view. I've seen, I've heard this comment. I've said this comment is he's stuck on the wing. He's stuck on the wing. He's always Isaac. He's stuck on the wing. What I don't say very often is he's now one of the best creators in the league. Comfortably one of the best creators in the league. Like, in 8 games, 19 key passes, 6 big chances. That's why his baseline where it is. 19 key passes, all from open play. You don't see that from anybody from open play. In terms of open play, he is creating more than anybody else in the league. Mo's pretty close, but he's doing a huge amount. He's not had any pens yet. There is potential that he will have some bigger weeks, but what we should also not address is that he ain't shooting anywhere near like he was shooting. He's not getting the shots that he was getting. Like, he is now that where he'd be like, the explosive guy is going to get 20 points. He's actually the sort of explosive guy that he'll probably get 10 points quite often if he scores, because his baseline's so high that he'll get that. And he might even get 7 or 8 points just for an assist, because the defense don't clean.
I'm feeling like the quality of his shots on target has diminished slightly as well. I mean, this is more from watching the games, but I feel like he gets shots on target, but a lot of them just hit the keeper. Like, they're just gathered by the keeper, which is better for the keeper than it is for him, I suppose.
It's because Brennan and Solanke are getting the bigger chances because he's creating them.
Yeah, there's that.
like his shots are a lot further out than Solanke's 1.6.
Like, from an FPL perspective, it looks, I mean, like, Johnson's very, very clear. Like, he's just there to arrive at the edge of the box, or sorry, in the 6-yard box and complete whatever move we've done. Basically, he's there to complete a move.
Yeah.
Solanke, we talk about, he's a more sort of 7 out of 10, does a lot of dog work, in sort of deeper spaces, none of which is particularly great contributions for FPL. So again, he's really there for the big chances, and for someone that didn't have a shot on target in 3 games, to have an average 1.6 over 9 is pretty good. To be honest,
when he does, he does, and when he doesn't, he absolutely
doesn't. He's just not involved. So you get everything or nothing with Solanke, which I guess you can pick whether you want that boom or bust scenario. Would you sell Son for Palmer or Salah?
Yeah, I would. Yeah. I'm on a world where I've got both Salah and Solanke, and I'm questioning whether Solanke to Isak it is of greater value currently than Son to Bruno or Saka. I'm not sure.
That was going to be the second one. Would you go from Son to Saka?
Oh, if I didn't also have Solanke, then that would be almost certain. It still might be my case. I still think I still would in my pecking order. I actually probably in my pecking order would probably have Saka, Bruno, Son, probably in that 3. And Bruno's 2 million cheaper. So therefore, that's, quite the thing. But do I also have an issue with keeping Son? No.
I mean, that's your team, right? You guys give a game to every team. You guys are good for 2 goals against anyone. And you're good for a thrashing every 3 or 4 games for anyone, unexpectedly even. Like you could thrash Fulham, and you could also lose to Bournemouth the week after. So that's just the ride you take with the Spurs picks. So it's very hard to say which week you should sell them.
Yeah, and Brennan's one. What I do think with Brennan's is it just stands out 5. Like he's got a poacher's baseline because that's what he is. So the positive is you've got a poacher who gets 5 points for a goal. That's really good. That's incredible. The downside is even if he gets the goal, he probably only gets 7 points. Because if anybody else from Tottenham scores, they're all immediately going ahead of him. And if everybody scores from the other team, which always happens because we always concede, they probably go ahead of him too.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult for Brennan to get bonus unless he braces. And potentially Solanke's in a similar boat where
they need double return.
They need double returns. I don't necessarily like double returns for Solanke needing when he probably isn't on pens, but again, we don't know that. I don't hugely like it.
I mean, it's also matchups, right? I mean, this is not a team selection, but Son should have more joy against City than Solanke, for example. And Isak has the better fixture than Saka, for example. So just as a trade-off.
Yes, and I suspect the answer is with both.
Yeah.
And the question is which to do this week. Just back, I mean, we've got to mention Porro. Got to mention Porro, mate, because lots of people got Porro. He's in and amongst it, isn't he? He doesn't stand out. It's a bit like what we said with Trent. Is he now doesn't sort of stand out against his peers? It's pretty good. These are all above 10,
despite conceding.
I mean, it's because we have like large volumes of control in the game in many games, right? And there's just a lot of action these guys are involved in. So there's lots of passing. There's lots of chances created. They're not huge chances, but even those crosses that just doinks onto someone's head is a successful cross, right? And that sort of thing. The interesting thing is obviously our defense. Like people, like we've conceded goals. Like we've massively underperformed our defensive numbers this season.
Yeah,
hugely. But at the same time, we've got probably no Van der Ven for a while, and Romero,
and maybe no Romero
as well. So it could just get worse.
Yeah, I think the thing as well is even though the baselines look pretty good, this is that team context part that's important. So if Porro cleans but doesn't return attacking wise, he's almost quite unlikely to beat Romero. Romero's playing. He's very similar with Vicario, but he also needs no goals from Kulusevski. He needs no goals from Maddison. He needs no goals from Son, and he needs no goals from Bentancur, Basuma, and Pape Sarr. No goals from any of those players. And you're like, all right, so the only way he gets, and no goal from Solanke. So the only way he would potentially get top bonus without an attacking return is if it was a 1-0 win and it was Brennan Johnson. And even then, it's quite close.
That's a very specific scenario, isn't it?
It needs to be that old specific set of skills to happen for him to get there without getting the returns.
Yeah.
But I've always felt there is the game. Now that Maddison's not starting every game, he got the corner assist last week.
Yeah.
There is a game where he's going to magic up a 15-pointer because he's got that in him. So he has the pedigree. But with the bonus changes, with Spurs being the defense that they are, with Maddison was starting and taking all the corners away, I just didn't feel he was 5.5 million. Not at all.
No. And the thing is, because we're so inconsistent of like you said, of just how our run of fixtures goes, it also makes it very hard to trust whether he does get the set pieces or not. Because at the start of the season, it was like, well, do you remember? I remember me and Adam being really excited that we've got this new way. We're playing 2 twin tens. We're doing Kulusevski and Maddison. That's what we're doing. And then you're like, well, that's bad for Porro because Maddison's got all of it. And then suddenly a few games later, it's like, no, Maddison's the devil. Get Sarr in, and that's how we're doing. But then we lost to Ipswich last week. So what happens next week?
Right.
Yeah, and if we get hammered by Man City, which I do expect us to do so, then suddenly we're in the bottom half, and who knows what happens with the team. Like the only one I really trust is Son, but the only thing I don't trust with Son is his hamstrings.
And whilst Andrew's in charge, everyone's hamstrings at risk.
That is definitely true.
Right, let's get the last couple done, and then we can go through that wildcard draft, which is looking ever worse as we go through these, which is great. West Ham, is there anything from West Ham? I have no idea why.
No, it's not.
Wan-Bissaka's highlighted here. Well, actually, I can see why Wan-Bissaka's highlighted here. He has the highest baseline of all of his defences, bar Fabianski, obviously. But
wow,
8.2.
You can't.
But he's not. The thing is, with 8.2, like he's never the only way he would get any bonus, you'd think he'd get any bonus, is in a 0-0, and he still wouldn't because the other team would take all the bonus. Doesn't matter who you're talking about, the other team would have it all.
Yeah, because 8 is low.
Because 8 is low.
9 is low. Yeah.
It's just rubbish. Because the other keeper would get one, and yeah.
There's not enough in this for me for Bowen to be able to say yeah, you can go Bowen. Just while the team's where it is, I just think
Bowen just dovetails with Bumo. Like after Bumo's played Leicester, then Bowen plays Leicester, and then he has 3 or 4 good fixtures. But with the current setup, I don't see it. Like I don't see people going there. So,
but we might have different managers. Everything might be changed by the time we get that in space.
Wolves.
Last team.
Wolves. So I mean, highlighting here Jose Sarr and Johnston as topping their baseline, just basically because Wolves have had the worst fixtures and they've conceded pretty much the most goals, so that all of their baselines are particularly rubbish. Aït-Nouri has the lowest baseline of any defender in the game, 1.1. Like that is
any player in the game? I think it might be any player in the game.
I don't think it's any player. I think it's any defender. But
I think it's any player that's playing as many games as him, because it's 3.2 with Calvert-Lewin, I think was the lowest I've seen.
How many starts does Aït-Nouri? Oh, he has 11. So let's, if we just go to a quick comparison to people with 11 starts. I'm looking at my big list. Oh yeah, he's clearly so it's Aït-Nouri on 1.1, then Calvert-Lewin on 3.2, then Watkins 4.1. It's just
Aït-Nouri was one touch from Belgrade away from like a 12-pointer last week, wasn't he? But yeah, I just think they've conceded so many goals in these tough fixtures.
But if you think about that, he almost creates a big chance,
Yeah.
He almost gets an assist. So the assist is the decisive bit, but he almost creates the big chance. That technically is an unsuccessful cross, so he wouldn't get a point for that, because I think successful crosses are a point. If his passing was any good, that would have been an unsuccessful pass as well. So like it's negative for everything in that specific action there.
He actually, out of the Wolves defence, he has actually accumulated the most bonus points out of all of them. But this is minus. So he's had minus 170 bonus points this season. The next worst in the league is minus 127. Now, 100 of his minus 170 are from goals conceded.
So many.
That hurts. That hurts a lot.
Yeah.
But it's all the other stuff he does, which is partially it's funny. You know, he's been tackled 26 times. So because he's just runs like a madman. He has done some stuff which I don't mind the minuses for these. So he's been caught offside 4 times. Yeah.
You like that?
That's a good one.
We quite like that. It's off, you know, he says off target shots. But he has been booked 4 times. He has conceded 16 fouls because he's out of position, so he has to pull someone over, and then he gets a yellow card. So he does all those stuff. So when your baseline is terrible because of the stupid stuff that you do, I don't mind that as much. Do you know what I mean? Than if you just did nothing.
Yeah. Stupid stuff in very difficult fixtures.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So maybe if they don't have the stupid stuff, he does that. But I did notice it on the weekend. I was like, oh, is this is like a 1-point defender or a 6-point defender or a 15-point defender this guy is? And it's just where does that wheel spin every week? Yeah. It all leads to, if they continue loads of goals, doing a lot of stuff, but then you've got some guys in the forward positions that are actually still returning and have good baselines. It just makes Cunha just an incredible asset. And it makes Strand Larsen a really good asset for 5.5 million.
Yeah, both are good.
But you don't want 2 of them.
Especially after Southampton is out of the way. Because now, when we were looking at their fixtures 2 weeks ago, we saw Southampton home. It looked a lot better than now when you look at it. You go Fulham away, that's tough. Bournemouth, probably beat them at home. Everton away, West Ham away, could go either way. So suddenly you're like, okay, fixtures are okay, but I don't want 2 attackers. Like people on Wildcard are not picking even a single
and a
goal
defender, certainly.
Yeah. Maybe Cunha, but that's it.
Yeah. It's been really interesting looking at this because I feel like I haven't got enough defenders in my current team, but I also feel like I don't really want to make defender moves.
Yeah.
When you've got defenders like I've got Greaves, so that's just a non-existent. Then I've got Mikalenko, Ait-Nouri, Lewis, and then Gabriel. So Gabriel plays every week, and then the rest of it, I'm like Lewis, Ait-Nouri, and Mikalenko, and I've got to play 2 out of them every week. And what we've just looked at, doesn't feel nice, does it?
But at least the setup feels all right. That you've only spent some, 15 odd million in the or 17, 18 million in the last 4 or the 4 defenders apart from Gabriel.
Maybe you just have to leave the defense and hope to get lucky. Maybe you just have to leave and hope to get lucky, I think.
Yep.
So yeah, that's it. That's all the teams. That's all the teams. We made it. We made it through all the teams. And then so we looked at basically from the goalkeepers, defenders, mids, and forwards tables that were earlier. I popped this team out onto X and onto Blue Sky last night with a load of people thinking it was my team, my wildcard team. So I got loads of fantastic suggestions in here, like get rid of the Forest assets because their fixtures are hard, which was clear. Semenyo over Smith Rowe, might not be Dallo, might be Mazraoui, fair. Van Heck over Veltman was also fair. Guardiola to Gabriel was a bit of a, for me, felt a little bit strange just because I just think Guardiola's route to points is actually a lot higher at the moment. I think City's defense can get better. But otherwise, there was a lot of very complimentary comments about this team. So for anyone listening, it was Raya in goal, Veltman, Vardiol and Dalot at the back, Bumo, Palmer, Saka, Smith Rowe and Salah in the midfield, Cunha and João Pedro up top with Fabianski, Wood, Aina and Davis. And Fabianski's literally, he doesn't really make any, he's not making anything from a bonus perspective, but he's just cheap enough so he makes everything here work. So there were a couple of sacrifices. I couldn't just fit the top of each because it just didn't work. This actually fits my budget, and I don't have the most fantastic team value, so there's probably some people that can get slightly better than this. But I think I still think, despite that being based on literally the last 11 game weeks, I think that's not a bad side going forward.
I mean, I'm not going to argue with the structure because it's quite close to my structure in that sense of one premium defender and then cheapos around it. 3 premium midfielders, the mid-price Bumo, and then a cheaper one, and then 3 cheapish strikers.
There was questions around the flexibility up front in case you wanted to get to Haaland. Like Isak would probably be better in there, and I agree with that.
It does. It's still that interesting place for everybody at the moment. I've taken on Haaland or not. I like it. Pras, as we've got the opportunity with that, it's all 3 of us currently are without Haaland this weekend, and I don't like that going against Tottenham this weekend. I mean, I will double celebrate. Like I will celebrate more than I've ever celebrated if we somehow clean against Man City this weekend. But what are your feelings? Because you're better at the strategy of the world than we are about when do you get him back? Do you get him back? Do you never get him back? How does that work?
I've just left a route open to getting him back because injuries happen, right? At the moment, we think Palmer's fine, Saka's fine, Salah's fine, and so everything's beautiful until or if one of them get injured. So what I'm trying to basically make sure is go through this idea that Adam just mentioned, which is have Isak in my team, which probably will be my transfer in this week. And so if Palmer's injured or Salah's injured, you have a double move, get those guys down to a 4.5 and you can get Haaland. So that's what I want to do so that I have the contingency in place. Do I think I will get him as things stand? Maybe not. Because I do think if Bruno becomes important in the game as a player, you just can't afford to have Palmer, Salah, Haaland, and Bruno and a decent Arsenal defense. It just doesn't work. So at some point, if I do decide to go to Haaland, it'll be Salah out for Haaland. So basically the exact opposite of what I did 2 weeks ago, a lot of people. But apart from that, I definitely am not looking for a structure where I'll have Haaland and Salah and Palmer, who feel like the 3 most important players in the game. I just feel sacrifice one of those 3 and then get the Sakas, the Isaks, the Brunos, which make basically everything else better. That's where I am at the moment, but things change in 6 weeks.
That's useful though. It's useful because there's part of my brain says maybe like you just go Solanke to João Pedro and then go try and get myself another big midfielder and do all that stuff. But like I say, it does then completely cut off that avenue back, doesn't it?
Exactly.
It doesn't cut it off, just costs 4 more points.
Yeah, okay.
Depends.
I mean, I would even argue more because, okay, in your scenario, let's say you go for that 5 horseman midfielder and 3 cheap, right? And Palmer gets injured. Palmer is 11 million. And your most expensive, let's say Cunha is 6.5.
Yeah.
That's 17.5, just the 2 of them. So Haaland is 15.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have to then remove another midfielder who's not injured to get the money because you're not doing it from defense. Your defense is already cheap. So then you're sacrificing a Saka or a Salah to get to a Haaland just because Palmer is injured. I just feel.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit more icky. It's not as fun. It's definitely not fun.
Yeah.
It's definitely not fun. I think we need to wrap it up, boys, to be quite honest.
Yes.
I'm looking at 2 hours and 20 minutes. And it's it's going to be a busy week ahead. I didn't know whether you'd noticed, but I was obviously only drinking the Beavertown beer because we're obviously heading to the Tottenham Stadium this week, myself and you.
Are you guys at the game?
The game?
No.
The FCA's, mate.
Oh, okay. Of course. Go on, tell us.
Getting dressed up. So yeah, I'll be down in London on Thursday and be meeting up with a few people and having a few social drinks. Yeah. Maybe not as many as I had at Fest. I don't want any more Reddit threads and shit about me, to be honest.
Swearing angry Matt. Smoking away.
Exactly. But yeah, though that was that was the BPS pod. That is always, I mean, it's as difficult as it, like, long as it is to put together. It's actually fun to go through it all, and it does bring different players into mind when I'm trying to, for me anyway, for trying to free up some cash and move into players that obviously I think I should have. So, you know, things like not having Palmer and Salah at the moment, and having Trent, and just finding the right moves where I can maybe soften the risk a little bit by having a Lewis Hall, for example, who's a huge differential, but has that little bit of extra upside, the stuff that we're kind of looking for from Lewis, we're not getting, just to soften it in case there's any issues. And he's, you know, non-minute risk players like, I don't know, Van Heck and stuff like that are also good to work through that. So I've enjoyed it.
Marvelous. Gents, thank you, Pras.
For anybody,
Thank you, Adam, for all the work.
Oh, mate, I mean, I sat here and listened to you talk through it all. It's always good to do that as well, mate. So that's why we're a team.
I got first row seats to the best pod that you guys do, and so much hard work. So thank you on behalf of everyone. I'm sure I can see in the chat, everyone is really thankful for the hard work you guys have done for this one. So yeah, it was great.
Cool. Right, guys, on the way out, make sure you like the stream, subscribe if you want to see more. We'll see you on X. We'll see you on Blue Sky. We'll just basically see you later.
See you later.